if you gave a white supremacist 5-MeO DMT, and then as the first one, as they're exhaling,
yeah.
What a rush!
Folks, welcome into your Tuesday night show here on World Class Bullshitters. You know I'm going to call it the Tuesday night special. That's what I almost said. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks. You know me from this channel. You know me from the books like Stealing Solo and Wokebusters. But tonight you're going to know me as the guy who has to say a specific Canadian province a whole hell of a lot. But I'm not alone. Tonight I am joined by, we're going to switch this order around because it's his national holiday from the greatest of white norths. Say hello to the one, the only, the Script Doctor.
Hey, happy Canada Day to all my Canadian friends, to all my American friends. Join us in the celebration of Canada Day, which is one of the few Canada Days that actually celebrates just Canadians and not our horrible government. As you can see here, I've got my my Canada flag behind me and my flag chest tattoo. Fortunately, because I'm so pale, I only had to pay for the red and not have to worry about the white. So that's pretty cool. And I'm happy to kind of ring in the celebration, 158 years of Canada being a country since the British North American Act of 1867, where we had Confederation, the positive kind, up here.
Versus our kind, which
it's controversial down there, but you know, they had their own ideas.
Well, I'll be celebrating tonight with maple syrup and some Molson and some, what's a good choice?
Poutine is actually pretty good.
Poutine? Oh, I wish I had some Crown Royal. That's my favorite thing from Canada, export-wise. But,
very
folks,
good whiskey. Yeah.
From another part of the world, say hello to Andy Andrew.
What's going on, Jeff? What's going on, Chad? It's great to be back. We had a week off, but now we are here to bring you the best damn show on a Tuesday night. So cheers to my Canadian brethren out there, even though Canada's a myth.
I forgot. It's not real.
Yeah, you know.
It's all an illusion.
It is. Or according to South Park, it is all pixelated and all that. But yeah, it's great to be here. I'm happy to be back. I'm thrilled to be here. I have my first glass of wine in a month because I took June off. And so it just so happens that this show landed on the first. So I'm very thrilled to have a glass of wine. And I'm going to raise my glass not only to my Canadian brethren for their day, but also for the passing of Jim Shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I was going to...
Marvel editorial legend.
I have an image ready for that.
And also to anyone who's familiar with Eric Hodson, who is the line artist for Achromatic Chronicles Green. His father passed away this morning. So cheers to you, sir, and may your father rest in peace.
The Jim Shooter one was kind of a surprise because I just met Jim Shooter back in March, and he talked to me for a good half an hour. He was super awesome because all I did is go up to him and say, hey, I think your era of Marvel books were the best. I really appreciated them. Just that little bit right there, and he was off to the races. He was telling me insider stuff. He was talking to me about everything. And it was funny, too. Like, he wanted to tell, like, the names. And then he was, like, telling me about somebody. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name. And he's like, I didn't say it. And then he goes on to say it and starts telling all these great Marvel stories. So I live by the code of meet the comic book legends now because they're all passing away. And I'm not trying to make light of anything, but like Ramita passed away 2 years ago. I had a chance to meet Stan Lee and I didn't take up the offer. All these different things. So now I live by the rule of if there's a Marvel creator that's around, I gotta go meet him. So I went and met Jim Shooter, and like the other Marvel creators I've met, he was world class all the way. I mean, between his books, I mean the stuff he edited, he didn't draw anything. But the stuff he worked on, like Secret Wars and the X-Men books from the 70s and 80s were the best ever. Jim Shooter's work was awesome. I know he gets a lot of flack from behind-the-scenes people because he was very strict on how to get shit done, but he got shit done.
Adhere to your deadlines.
Yeah.
And make stuff that actually sells, please.
I mean, I've heard this story where he talks about as a teenager, before he sent off his first script, he's literally studied comics for like a year straight, trying to figure out how they worked, how the stories were framed. And then
I think comics at 14.
Yeah.
What the hell?
he was lucky his mom was cool with that.
Well, they
Yeah,
had to
my
because
parents
Jim
probably
Shooter,
would not have been.
Jim Shooter's parents relied on him to bring in the money. He was taking care of his family as a teenager, like mom and dad. So he had a
Man,
hell of a
working
work ethic.
comics. Can you imagine that, working comics and being able to take care of yourself and your family?
Yeah.
That's not common these days.
Yeah, because he started in what, 65, I think.
I believe. I don't know his entire like date by date history.
I mean, neither knew why. I mean, I just know in general stuff because, again, like I read bits of X-Men in the 70s, and of course I'm a big fan of the Bronze Age, so that's the 70s and getting into the early 80s before Crisis on the DC side of things. So yeah, and then I thoroughly enjoyed the first Secret Wars, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I remember hearing other comic book professionals have a little bit of issues with Jim Shooter because of his work ethic. But I think that came from probably his youth being like, you know, you got to hit those deadlines because you got to get that check because that check pays your rent. And that rent keeps you, housed for another month. And, well, it may not have been a priority for some of the other artists or writers out there. Hitting your deadline, meeting your target it's a good habit to make.
It's vital for comics. People talk about, oh, Jim Shooter cut my pay. From what I've heard, it's you didn't make your deadlines, so you were bumped back to just doing the work that you could do within the deadline period. So some people were writing 3 and 4 books and drawing 2 and 3 books a month, but that's not everybody.
Right.
That's just John Byrne.
John Byrne, Archie Goodwinford to a degree.
Draw everything, right?
Yeah. Well, John Byrne would always lose steam, right? Like his quality never changed, but he'd be like, I'm tired of this, and then move on to something else.
Hey, I respect that. At least it's not, hey, let me keep drawing this Superman book until it's just 2 sticks in a circle. Like,
Yep.
Yeah. Right. And the thing is, when you have particularly artists who are either very detailed or they have a very particular style, you can tell when they start cutting corners because their quality is already just at base level so high where it's like, ooh, you didn't put as much oomph behind that panel or behind that page.
Well,
You can tell when their heart's not in it.
Yeah, also, too, I don't necessarily always think that means a bad thing for artists, though, because a lot of these guys, we'll use John Byrne for an example, have different stages of their art. And while it looks vastly different than, let's say, his X-Men stuff back in the day, his later work, even on something like Spider-Man 20 years after X-Men, I don't think sucked. I think it just, he didn't have an inker that really made John Byrne's artwork pop. But the same with like a Romita Jr. Those guys, that guy's great, but he has 2 distinct art styles. I like them both, but some people say his secondary one's cutting corners. I think it's just more stylized. I mean, that Punisher run was pretty bitchin'. Same with Daredevil, but I like his first Spider-Man run. So,
and an
that's all
inker
on
can
Jim
make
Shooter.
or break your lines sometimes too.
Oh yeah, look at like with Romita Jr. They set him up with Jim Mooney, and people are like, "Who are these people you're talking about?" Jim Mooney's a comic book artist. He inked over my favorite artist, and he's the guy that inked a lot of like iconic Spider-Man images, stuff that's like on mugs, on T-shirts. That's how much I know about this. I'm like, oh, that's from this book because I like this shit. But anyway, yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Jim Shooter. May he rest in peace. Hopefully, no other comic book legends pass. But I mean, I got a lot more to meet. I want to meet John Byrne, even though I am afraid to meet John Byrne, because
You should
hear
be.
he's not. Yeah,
You should be.
he's an angry Canadian, and he heard I don't like maple syrup as much as he does, so he's pissed.
Danger.
No, I think John Byrne, like, so up in Canada, we have a school called the Ontario Academy of Art and Design. And it's a very difficult school for a lot of artists because just like in some schools in San Francisco and some schools in Florida and a couple others in New York State, they break you as quickly as they possibly can to make sure that you can be good. And it's based off of an old model from George Agnew Reed. He was a principal back at that school or the dean back at the school in the 1920s. And he basically said, if you're an artist and you don't do any art unless you're inspired, you're no real artist, because every real artist tries to improve their craft in between their points of inspiration, so that when they get those points of inspiration, they are at their peak at that moment, as opposed to doing nothing, let those skills kind of fade or just stay stagnant. And then when you get inspired, you use something that's probably great, but not be as great as it could have been had you been perfecting your craft of all the tools at your disposal that you'd be using for that piece of art, whether it was a sculpture, whether it was a painting, a sketch, comic book, whatever it was. They always said you got to keep, perfecting your craft and your art.
Well, that's having a learning mindset, right? And like, no matter how good you are, you can always refine something, even if it's only 1 or 2% of your process and what you do. Like, hey, maybe I could get better at hair, even though everything else I do is already a 10 out of 10, right? It's like, shoot, why not just make the whole bitch a 10 out of 10, right?
No artist ever calls themselves a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Every artist I've ever met is like, is it good enough? Hopefully they'll like it.
You know what I'm saying.
Oh, I get it, dude. I'm just giving you shit.
Well, your art is already really good, but then you look at how you improve from one book to the next, right? Because you find things in your own work. You're like, I want to improve.
This is a napkin. I literally draw every minute I can. Like,
yeah,
I was on some live stream the other week. Yeah, I'm always just practicing bodies because I think that's the most important part of a comic book is the people, because you're telling stories about those people. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, building's fine once you lay out your perspective. It's just follow this grid and there's a ruler like this. It's very boring, but I like people, women, aliens, all that kind of stuff. Well, women are people, but that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, I've never known an artist that didn't look back at their work, even if on the writing side of things, be like, oh, I could have written that better. I could have drawn that better. I remember a famous Neil Adams interview where he criticized his famous Superman breaking the chains across his chest thing. He's like, that's not how chain links break. I should have known better. I hate that. I hate that.
And yet it's an iconic piece.
Yep.
But I think his first was better than
honest
the redraws.
enough.
Yeah.
He's honest enough with himself as an artist where he's like, I could have done that better. Right. And I appreciate somebody who's self-reflective enough to be able to say, you know what, I can do better than that.
Yeah, Neil Adams was the man.
I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite Batman artists. There's no question. Like, he has one of the most definitive Batman looks ever.
You know how what he said to me when I asked him about drawing Batman? He goes, "It's just a guy in a mask," and like it wasn't very prolific. I went, "Okay."
Really?
Keep it simple, man.
No words of wisdom or any tricks of the trade about it. It's just a dude in a mask.
Well, he gave all the people that worked for him free prints and autographs, and I was like, "Hey, can I just watch you draw some stuff instead?" And he's like, "Okay." So that was my pay. I mean, he paid me on top of that, but that's what I wanted. I didn't want Neil Adams prints. Like, sorry, Neil, I got all your original work, not original art, but original books here. I'd rather have those signed. But folks, if you're just tuning in and you're like, who is this man on screen and what are these guys talking about? This is Jim Shooter. He recently passed away, as in yesterday. He was the editor-in-chief of Marvel in the 1980s. And, well, we just wanted to give a quick eulogy. Plus, we like to talk about the medium that we all work in. So, there you go. R.I.P. Jim. It was a pleasure to meet you. But we have some awesome audience members in the chat right now who want to play the word of the day. In honor of Canada Day, from Shrubbles08, for Script Doctor, the word of the day is Saskatchewan. Sisterhood of the Traveling Saskatchewans, a few Saskatchewans, Jurassic Saskatchewan, and a fistful of Saskatchewan. That just
Saskatchewan Busters.
There you go. The naked
Make it all one word.
To live and die in Saskatchewan.
From Saskatchewan with love.
From dusk till Saskatchewan?
Once upon a time in Saskatchewan.
That's not bad. That's not bad. The never-ending Saskatchewan.
Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Saskatchewan?
I mean, you're not true with both of them. You're wandering through Saskatchewan. It's just flat, and you see to the next province, actually, pretty clearly.
So if there wasn't atmospheric interference, you'd just see everything in one flat plane?
Yeah, actually, you can see right through Manitoba and into Alberta on a clear day.
Oh, wow. Voyage of the Saskatchewan Trader.
Ooh. Saskatchewan all the way.
2001, a Saskatchewan Odyssey.
Saskatchewan Odie.
Stop her, my Saskatchewan will shoot.
Dude, where's my Saskatchewan?
It's north. Any more, guys?
The Saskatchewan Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Event Saskatchewan, that's a good one.
Instead of Event Horizon, there you go. Nice.
Conquest of Saskatchewan.
The Return of Saskatchewans from Matt West.
Age of Saskatchewan.
Man.
Age of Saskatchewan. Yeah. Phantom of the Saskatchewan.
That just sounds awesome.
That actually doesn't sound half bad. That feels like that could be a genuinely like solid setup for a
B-movie?
B horror film. Right?
I love B horror movies. They're kind of my bread and butter when I'm drinking.
Tales from the Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Saskatchewan 57.
Saskatchewan's world.
What if the whole world was like Saskatchewan? Would it just be cold and boring, or is there a lot going on up there?
It's a big farming province, so I mean it's not always cold, but when the season's because it's a little bit closer to the equator than where I am, just because North America is tilted opposite the equator. So as you go further west, western provinces and western states are a little bit closer to the equator than eastern province and eastern states. So yeah, a lot of farming there. Good wheat, good corn, good beef. Actually, we're now able to, and because we've dropped some provincial trading borders, we're now able to get Alberta and Saskatchewan beef in my neck of the woods. And I've missed it because it's really good.
Well, I just thought of a name for our, remember our comic about porn being outlawed in Canada, or American, you got to smuggle it over the border?
Yep.
I think the title is now Operation Saskatchewan. That's what that means.
It's funny.
That's great.
Al Capone used Saskatchewan as well as the Detroit Windsor Funnel to smuggle alcohol into the United States. He built underground tunnels.
Man.
So they still exist. So you can actually draw on that.
We're using the tunnels, the real Capone,
Capone
tunnels.
Do it. Do it.
The nicest part about that book is it would probably be like a 25-page comic. It wouldn't have to be like Stealing Solo. It's like 52 pages long. Nope. Operation Saskatchewan. Drew it in a week.
Nice.
Landscapes are easy, just a flat line.
Yep. It'll be one character per panel, and it'll just have a bunch of word balloons. That'd be horrible. No, folks, I'm not changing up my style. This next book is very colorful and bright. I just got my new colorist on Stealing Solo 2, so that's working. Yeah, it's great. I was off at my gaming tournament because I'm working on a game. I have a game company now. That's not a plug yet. But when I was up there and we were testing it out, I got my color page back. I was like, yes, it was a hell of a weekend last weekend, folks. So Be on the lookout for all of those wonderful things. If you're a patron, I might share it on Patreon with you, but I'll tell you this. The guys and I recorded hours of Patreon content for you guys today. So you're going to start getting that tomorrow. We have a whole conversation about the new Running Man trailer, talking about remakes, talking about parallels between the real world. We also have another one dropping soon about the Ryan Gosling film Operation Hail Mary, which is that sci-fi movie. So we're talking about that trailer, we're talking about science fiction, and then we're talking a little bit about this Zelda movie, and we're using words and things we can't really talk about on YouTube, so it's spicy. And we talk about the actor that everybody wants to play Link. So join us over there. But we have some wonderful audience members in the chat, like my friend Enrique Vasquez, who says, "Damn, Script, you gonna take on Maple Thieves?"
I have. You try to steal our syrup. I'm going after you, hard and mean.
Strike someone down before you say, "I'm sorry."
Actually, yeah, I'll be like, my fist will leave my side, and I'll be saying, "I'm so sorry," as I connect with their jaws.
If they ever make a movie based on some of this bullshit Canada stuff we talk about, Rick Moranis has to play Script Doctor. I'm just saying.
Old man Script Doctor recounting the story.
I'm here for it.
Rick
Oh,
Moranis
dude, I can do a good Bob and Doug McKenzie. Almost every Canadian can.
I was going to ask that. Isn't that just kind of like in your DNA?
By accident, too,
Does
because...
that qualify as racist?
I mean, no, it's culturalist, if anything. The further east you go, the more high-pitched, and so if you go further northeast, it's more high-pitched, like a Rick Mercer type. And for those in Canada or in the United States who don't know, Rick Mercer is a stand-up comedian and satirist who actually had a special on a Canadian show called This Hour is 22 Minutes, where he would go to the United States on a show called Talking to Americans, and he'd just make up really silly stuff about Canada and seeing how much he could get Americans to actually agree with it. He went so far as to actually get governors and senators to wish obscure things about Canada, like congratulations on your first igloo that didn't melt this winter. Stuff like that.
So basically, he was making a laughing stock of how stupid some Americans are.
Not really stupid, just like the fact that the culture of America, like one of the things that Canada had learned really early on as the United States started to grow is that although you're not xenophobic, you are still isolated. Like you don't really care much about other countries or other cultures, and nor you have a reason to, because you have all this freedom, all this opportunity, all these other things happening at home. But we just like, okay, we're just going to take advantage of that because you guys are so focused on the stuff that you have to get done because of all the responsibilities you have and all the ambitions that you have and all the opportunities that you have, that when you actually like take your head out of the clouds and you look around and be like, oh, there's what's going on over there? It's like, yep, Canada. We just built our first igloo parliament and it didn't melt this season, so we're really proud about that. And you're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's it. And then you go back to your thing, and we're like, okay, it's funny.
I kind of love that, honestly.
But
yeah, I need to look that up.
We're actually making fun of ourselves at the same time as kind of making fun of you, and it's a nice little bonding thing because even at the end of it, it's like, why did I believe that? Oh, right, Canada.
Yeah, because it's Canada, so it's like, well, I mean, I guess anything's possible.
It is in Canada. They made Trish Stratus and Jim Carrey.
You get like Steve Smith from the Red Green Show. You get Rick Green, who is also friends with Paul Chatto, who's a friend of mine, who's part of the Frantics comedy sketch troupe. And then you get Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas back together to be Bob and Doug McKenzie. Throw in some Eugene Levy there and Catherine O'Hara, and you've got a heck of an ensemble of some funny Canadians that, sadly, we don't have a younger generation that can succeed them, which is
SCTV 2.0. That's what that sounds like to me.
It would be great. I know people that work at Second City, and we've had words about how they keep selecting terrible cast members for their stage shows.
They
like,
can't all be
hire
John
funny
Candy.
people. It's like, these are funny people. It's like, nah, not really. Not for
Eugene
Canada.
Levy is way underrated. That dude is great, like with a capital G. If you don't, folks, American Pie, Jim's dad, big eyebrows. He's in a bunch of shit. Go watch his entire work.
Check out Schitt's Creek, which is spelled Schits, and Canadian show with him and Catherine O'Hara. Eugene Levy's son is in there, and then another actress who's not too bad is in there as well. Just a very peculiar sketch, very peculiar sitcom that ran for like 7 or 8 seasons.
It's on my list of stuff to watch. I'm still working through old shows like the White Shadow, the one that I talk about every week. Folks, when I finish it, I'll stop talking about it. I did catch up on Ironheart. To make a rounded out vid. Well, I got to make channel content, and I know people want to hear about stuff.
I checked it out. It was. I will say I am surprised that a number of commentators didn't understand that she sold completed assignments to pay for her Iron Man suit. She didn't use her grant money to do that because the grant money was to fund her room and board and education. That's what it was. And then they argue, well, she stole the suit. It's like, well, no. She paid the suit. She stole the AI that operated it, and then the school took it back, and I thought that was funny. But
come on, script. So many of these people don't even understand how college works. Let's not give them that much, okay? Like, we've all been.
Yeah.
But your average person on the internet that wants to talk about it, they're just, outside of the university throwing shit or going to the game trying to pick up chicks. Like, college is a different experience.
Yeah, you can actually go to class and pick up chicks at the same time and then go to the bar later on.
Yeah.
Like the on-campus bar. It's pretty cool. It's all the right. One's a little tight community.
Hookah bar for me, that was always a winter place. But, I have paid attention to the criticisms. I just think there's a couple redundancies in this show. Like, every time... the other redundancies, I also think, too, whoever creates these shows... I have a problem with the trope of, like, every minority character goes up against the same things over and over
same
again.
Obstacles.
It's like, yeah. It's like, I'm like, that's why I like Beverly Hills Cop. One, because it's funny and Eddie Murphy's great, but the only race shit is a joke that he makes himself. How can a black man dressed like myself wander into the bonded area? Like, if Beverly Hills Cop took literally one line, I'd hate the movie if it just went, "Oh, you're so talented for a young black man." They don't say any of that stupid shit in that movie. But these modern shows, it's like, here's the lens. Let's just get right in there, and that's it. That's my tipping point for a lot of this stuff where I go, okay, now it's time to just watch and not really engage because it's the same old shit. And I think they're going the smart route by putting it out over the course of 2 weeks, and then it's done. Isn't it just 6 episodes and it ends tonight?
I think the last 3 episodes end tonight, and I would say, you know what? There was some effort in there, but there was just they weren't going in the right direction, and they weren't making Riri Williams a compelling character who could be seduced to do bad things and then realize how bad it actually was and then try and dig her way out. Because those types of stories can be really fun. Like,
it can be.
Because the dramatic irony is like, you're like, no, don't join them. They're evil. And they're just like, but they're also desperate. And you realize, okay, so that's their flaw. They're desperate.
Well, also part of that, in order to sell that, right, you have to first care enough about the character to say to them, no, don't do that, right? You got to endear that character to your audience in order for them to give a damn whether or not they do something stupid, right? It could be to their detriment or the detriment to the people around them.
And by making her a little bit too arrogant, that really
comic accurate, I guess.
I mean, it's comic. I mean, one of the things that I kind of appreciated, and I didn't know about this if it's in the comics or not, is the fact that Riri, like, her dad, biological father, passed away, so he didn't like walk out on the family, which I'm like, okay, props to Marvel for not doing that. And then on top of that, she really loved her stepfather, who is a great mentor to her. And then when he, gets shot in a drive-by, she feels his absence. And I'm like, okay, so that's more, it's a better approach to trying to, show some tragedy into this character's life that isn't kind of fitting into a stereotype that's been so overused and so negatively pushed down that you just kind of roll your eyes at it. But while that works great around her character, I mean, you need some humility. I mean, even with Robert Downey Jr.'s own take on Tony Stark, he still had a little bit of humility to it when he was like, "Oh, I'm sitting in the back of the car with a bunch of regular soldiers. I'm not in the high class limousine. I'm happy to talk to these people."
And he was having fun with them,
human beings, and having fun with them. He understands the status with regards to his money and power, but he's like, "I just want to chat with you people," and I don't think of you people as quote unquote you people, but just like,
no gang signs,
I like to talk with human beings. I wanted to get to know the soldiers that are using my gear. And he likes that, and he had fun with them. And you realize, okay, so his arrogance is only with regards to his technology. It's not with regards to how he interacts with people. And with Riri, she was actually kind of arrogant at first with, the dean from the community college, and then that lady from one of the Iron Man movies that I can't remember, who's the administrator for it. And then when she tries to say, "I accept responsibility," you have the dumbest thing ever where they're like, "Well, we don't tolerate plagiarism." It's like, woman, she didn't plagiarize anything. She fixed other people's and finished other people's projects and sold it to them. Those people that bought it, they're technically plagiarists because they're taking credit for someone else's work.
That's what I said out loud.
Doing it, you can punish her for doing it minimally. You don't kick her out for that. You kick the people that paid her out because they're the ones that abused the program.
I guess the black girl magic's gone out, man. What do you do?
Well, if anything, it's comic accurate to how she is for the most part, because she's incredibly arrogant in the comics, so much so that at one point in, I think it was either Young Avengers or Champions, I want to say it was in Champions a handful of years back.
Ew,
she tries
Champions.
I didn't read the whole freaking thing. I read this sequence.
I like how you're like, I'm trying to backpedal now. Just anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, man. I'm giving you shit.
She tries to solo Thanos.
What?
Because she thinks she can take him. And even all of the other stupid characters on that team are telling her it's a bad idea, and she just does it anyway. Thanos gives her the most brutal beatdown possible, and it was one of my favorite moments I've ever seen in comics. Not because I like Thanos, but because Riri was getting the crap kicked out of her, justifiably so, because she was being an arrogant twit.
I wish Thanos would have given her the old pop can, just squeeze her head right in the hell. That happened in one comic where Iron Man got his, I think it was the original Infinity Gauntlet book, because it like plays it back. Cyclops, Thanos puts a glass case over Cyclops' face and sucks all the air out, so he like chokes to death. And then something happens to somebody else, and I'm pretty sure he just squeezes Iron Man's head in the mask and just like a grape. I'm like, ooh, that's gnarly. So I like that. That's my favorite way to attack an ironclad superhero. Just squish the head, kind of like the Hulk would do to the Chitauri at the end of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Pretty nasty. I like it.
I do too. You know, I'm not a gore hound, but in the right action movie, like I saw Nobody finally, and there were some pretty gnarly fights in that movie. And then Ballerina had some kills that were pretty cool. Like, I'm fine with the kills. Just have the horror movies or the movies that are, you know, featuring these kills be interesting. Like Friday the 13th Part 8, not interesting. Nobody, interesting. That's my formula.
Fair enough.
Lester Skeptic Tank the Obsession. Sorry, let's read that again because I remember his original name and my mind keeps going to the original one. Lester Skeptic Tank Obsessions has become a new member. Lester, thank you very much. I know you're a new member, but you're not a new fan of this channel. I appreciate all the support, and hopefully you're enjoying tonight's show. Folks in the chat, hit that thumbs up for us. It helps us out. We appreciate you. And if you're watching on another platform, because I see the numbers, well, the numbers that show on YouTube or whatever, but the numbers that across all our platforms are pretty solid. So there are a lot of you watching. Hit the thumbs up button, like. If you're watching on Twitter, there are a lot of you, just hit the retweet. You don't have to hit quote, just the retweet part, and it'll help us out. It'll get more eyes on WCBS. And like you saw in today's post, we're shooting for 250 by the end of the year. It's not that hard of a goal, and we've done bigger numbers in smaller windows of time. So let's beat this algorithm because it's just a computer, and let's do this together. TLJ Screwjob. Ooh, this is some good news. Just finished the Dollars trilogy. I checked the time when the first line was said. 10 minutes, 30 seconds. I thought 5 had gone by. Blondie is greater than Angel Eyes, is greater than Tuco.
Ooh.
I mean, Mount No Name is excellent. Blondie, whatever you want to call him. I'm in the weird minority here. I think the second film, for a few dollars more, was the best one.
It is really, really good.
I own all 3 on 4K. Love those movies. Leone, you know.
Yep. Lee Van Cleef really shined in those too. Like, not just Clint Eastwood.
That's why I like the second one, because Lee Van Cleef's the good guy in that one.
Yeah.
Because when I watched him like back to back on Netflix years ago, and I was like, wait, Lee Van Cleef's back? Cool. And then he was the bad guy. I was like, oh shit, all right.
I always wish he'd play a Commissioner Gordon in a 70s Batman movie.
Oh, he would
He'd be so good at that.
To jump back to the comic book thing, when I hung out with Jim Steranko last year, his best buddy was Lee Van Cleef, and he was just telling us Lee Van Cleef stories. He's like, do you know who the actor Lee? I'm like, I do, I know him. Good, the Bad, the Ugly. He was in the Twilight Zone. He's on a ton of shit.
He's in Escape from New York. He's Hawk.
That's a great movie, too. Escape from L.A., no thank you. That CGI is garbage. But you know what, TLJ Screwjob? When you're watching a quality film, something well made, you're lost in every aspect, because film is a visual medium, but it's also an oral medium. There's stuff to think about. It's great. I love movies more than almost anything. It's not about sitting on a couch and doing nothing. It's watching a story. But for me, it's also watching how it's made and the technical stuff. And, you know, when you get to the end of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, when they do the Ecstasy of Gold as they run down that, I guess it's a graveyard, but it's like staggered down, and the camera's going around and all this shit. That's cool. And then the guitar and the bells hitting. See, you can't do that. I love comics, but I can't sit there and go, imagine a guitar hitting these notes and then a bell, and then I can draw it, and that's cool and all, but film's the shit.
Yeah, it's just that one sense removed. But you know what? I mean, that's why you have like there's a nice parallel when it comes to like comics as a visual storytelling and film as a visual storytelling telling aspect, where the only thing you're really missing is being able to flip a comic and hear a soundtrack definitively with every story.
Yeah, because like when I'm a kid reading Spider-Man, the sound effect of the web is thwip. So it's like, but you hear and all these million different sound effects, and then you're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's what the onomatopoeia for is supposed to be.
Whip and quip. That's what I like out of my Spider-Man comics.
You know, some of my favorite ones, he doesn't have the most jokes. Like, I like the jokey Spider-Man, but like Kraven's Last Hunt and The Death of the Stacys and all those are my favorite books, and that's a serious Spider-Man.
Well, I like you have your like super dark or serious tone Spidey books, and that's perfectly fine. Like, those are iconic for a good damn reason, and they're incredible storytelling from basically every single facet possible. But I like those to be the, like, all right, well, here's this amidst everything else that we have as usual, the base. I like my base Spider-Man to be thwippy and quippy.
I do. I just don't want Spider-Man to be like Deadpool. That's all I ask for.
I don't want him to be freaking meme lord. That's not what I want, which is what modern Marvel has turned Deadpool into.
Well, his Spider-Man's comedy has always been in cope for the situations. I mean, it's the way that he's able to keep a level head. Otherwise, he might, collapse in on himself, because regardless of his powers, he still feels like that innocent little kid at times that just kind of doesn't know how to get, who gets in over his head on occasion, but doesn't always know how to get out until, he's able to reset his brain with a funny joke. And he's like, now my intelligence is taking over. My panic is going away. And now it's a
multifaceted thing, right? So yes, you're correct. He's trying to keep his own head in the game. He's also trying to keep his enemies off balance. And the other thing is he's trying to make sure he doesn't, and maybe you could make an argument that this is like a subset of point one, but he's also trying to make sure he doesn't give into the violence of it.
Yeah. Or fall into the obsession part of it. The one thing I'm trying to scratch my head over is, has Spider-Man ever fought a villain who was deaf and couldn't hear his quips?
That would be a fun comic.
know.
I don't think he has. That would be a fun comic. I can picture Peter being like, why?
Do I have to learn sign language now?
Right? How do I quip in sign language?
I have a feeling Spider-Man wouldn't be able to pull out some kind of shitty joke with sign language already. Like, ugh. And the guy would just be like, what?
I
Or maybe
honestly
maybe
think
the
I need
Spider-Man
that in
web
my
signal
life.
is close enough to something else, so he shoots the web in a weird way, and it looks like he says like something.
I need
Andrew,
somebody to
you
write that
it. I'll
comic.
draw it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm here for it.
I'll draw like a '60s Marvel book.
Oh,
Cool.
Okay.
That's kind of
Am I actually the first one to ask that question of Spider-Man fighting a death villain? Because I know Batman's fought a death villain before.
I mean, I've
I
never
don't know.
thought about that. Our friend TLJ Screwjob has a question for you. Script, when you write comedy stuff, is there ever a time when you know a joke will land, or is every single one, oh man, I hope people find this funny?
It's like a 90-10 rule. Like 10% of the time, you know a joke will land, and then 90% you are hoping it lands. And you got to experiment. It's sometimes it's not enough just to write the joke out in your on the page. You got to build the context and take it out to the streets and see if people catch on to what you're saying. Yeah, it's not easy. Even some of the best comedians I've met over the course of my career, especially like Joan Rivers, when I got to work with her for a very short time back in the aughts, she would talk all the time about how it would take her 5 or 6 attempts at a joke idea before she got it right, and rarely would she ever land on the joke the first time and know it was exactly what it needed to be. It always needed to be worked on. And she learned that lesson from Rodney Dangerfield, who would take her material, say it's garbage, and then help her rewrite it to be something good.
I loved Rodney Dangerfield. He was hilarious.
Yep. Now that was a guy that really kind of owned self-deprecating humor.
No respect.
I mean, I love him in Caddyshack, but Back to School, that might be my favorite Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Here's what I understand. There's you. There's Julio. What's with the midget? and that's what he was with Adriana Barbeau as his wife at the time, who not only was she John Carpenter's wife, but she later voiced Catwoman in Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, snap. Yeah.
Oh, real quick aside about her, the audience, I keep talking about this show you should check out called Duster, folks. It takes place in the 70s, but it's like, I don't know if it's alternate reality 1970s, because it's like all the historical stuff happens, but they're very loose with the history. Long story short, Adrienne Barbeau plays an old lady that is the wife of an FBI agent, but then later on in the episode, this guy goes to a party and meets upcoming actress Adrienne Barbeau. It was really weird, but really cool at the same time, so I kind of like how they're playing with that. Because the same thing, he stole Elvis's blue suede shoes in that same moment. So I'm like, Oh, okay.
Is that the one with Greg Grunberg, the guy who's like in all the J.J. Abrams shows?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I like him as an
He's-
actor. He's good.
He plays the FBI chief, and so he's not one of the main characters, but he's in every episode.
Oh, nice. I mean, this is probably a J.J. Abrams show then, if he's.
Oh yeah, it is. I've forgiven JJ.
He's just a creator. He's not actually like doing anything else. He's like, here's the idea, and I'm going to hand it off to a bunch of writers to finish it, and hopefully he doesn't come in like he did with Lost and be like, they're all dead. It's like, yeah, we kind of knew. But no, they've always been dead. Like, yeah, we knew. It's like, no, but now they're reconciling with God at the end. Oh gosh, okay.
I dodged a bullet with Lost.
Yes, you did. So did I. I just watched the pilot, said this is what's going to happen at the end, and then I won several $100s from people once the series ended.
Nice. Hey, works for you.
Yeah.
It was a good party that weekend.
Shrubbles08 says, I need an Uncle Ben and a random Canadian button, please. Well, here's your first one.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Uncle Ben.
Now, I don't know if I have any Canadian buttons, so let me just give you one that you guys haven't seen in a while.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Love that button so much.
Good one.
Thank you, Shrubbles08. Overkill161 says, Ironheart, more like Iron Fart. I was up all night with a writer's room workshopping that. We're very proud of ourselves.
Wow.
Did Aaron
Overkill.
Sorkin teach you how to write?
Overkill 161, dude. You have no idea how many writers' rooms I have guested into where things have like that have happened, where it's it's a lame joke that they think is brilliant, and you're like, oh, all night, huh?
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
Thank you for laying right out on the table like your limits.
Pretty much.
I one day hope to be in one of those writers' rooms as just an observer as they're adapting something I worked on and go, we're fucked, but maybe
At
I'll
least the
step
check
in.
cleared.
I was going to say that at first, but I don't want to paint myself as that guy. It's like, I can buy a Porsche now. Yeah, they're ruining.
amazing.
Stealing Solo is going to have like Melissa McCarthy in the movie theater scene. Like, I don't know if I like that.
Ooh,
Yeah, no,
it's rough,
not
man.
I know. Adama, thank you very much coming in with this massive $20 super chat. Hail the High Council! If you could add any song to a comic book movie, which one? My answer, in Iron Man 2, when Iron Man and War Machine are fighting the bad guys in the final act, they should have played War Machine by AC/DC.
That would have been pretty good.
That was
I
pretty
agree.
not bad. That's pretty not bad.
While we think about it, I will say this, Adama. My favorite song is actually in Watchmen. Ozymandias uses Everybody Wants to Rule the World as elevator music, and I thought that was
Oh, yeah.
really cool. And like that's like the one clever part of that movie where I'm like, rule the world, this guy, haha. But
Yeah.
that's about as nice as well. That movie's not terrible. Just not my
It's
favorite.
not terrible. I mean, it's very reliant on just trying to capture frame for frame what was in the comic book.
Yeah, which is why I didn't really like it, because I don't like the comic book.
That's okay.
I mean-
You're among fellow people that are.
I enjoy the
respecting of
comic
that
book.
opinion.
I just hate the fact that too many potentially great writers and artists used as inspiration to model every other character off that book.
Agreed.
I don't like this. I don't know what the word I'm trying to think of. That's probably on the tip of my tongue right now. This like dark, depressing look, bleak. Yeah.
Deconstructed.
Yeah.
It's honestly that's probably the best word for it. Alan Moore did he implemented deconstructionism on superheroes and the idea of superheroes as a genre. And while in isolation, the story he told was well done, I don't like it, and I don't like the fact that a lot of people looked at that and was like, ooh, so if I do that, my story is going to look like it's super smart. No, it's not. Stop. You're not Alan Moore. I didn't even like when Alan Moore did it.
I'm trying to give a great answer because, like, what would be a cool ass song? I mean, I wouldn't mind if, like, in the next Spider-Man movie, they pulled out the background music from that old cartoon, because I think it'd be cool to see him jumping around and, like, fighting people. Because those old fight scenes are just terribly drawn. He's like, "Ugh, I got you now!"
Oh, yeah.
And he's, like, hitting you with a haymaker, and take that, walloping web snappers. I get it, it's for kids. But as these movies...
web snappers.
He says that every episode. Like, walloping web snappers, what am I going to do? I'm like, I don't know, Spider-Man, but it's there's 7 minutes left in this episode. I'm sure you're going to survive. Like... That show is a parody, and I love it. I don't know.
Well, of course it's a parody. A bunch of Canadians made it.
Yeah, Grant Trey Lawrence.
Yeah,
Bless whoever wrote that line.
We even made the one that gives you seizures. You know, the episode with all the weird backgrounds that are like abstract paint art. Yeah.
But you also gave us Heavy Metal.
Yep.
And Heavy Metal is an awesome movie, which I used to not like, but now I appreciate and love it. And it's mostly made in Canada. Up in
And a lot of Second City. John Candy does a bunch of voices in that one.
Harold Ramis too, but I don't.
Yep.
Was he Second City ever?
Yes, Harold Ramis is one of the writers of Second City. Even though he came from National Lampoons. For whatever reason, I can't remember what it was. He didn't join SNL. He decided to go to Second City, and him and the Flaherty brothers. So that would be Joe Flaherty and David Flaherty, who I knew pretty well during college and then after college. And David passed away in like 2017, and his older brother his younger brother Joe passed away just last year. But these guys were from Pittsburgh, but as soon as they came to Canada, they just like blended right in. And so many people thought that they were Canadian and they weren't. They just like, no, we're from Pittsburgh. You know, they do Al Pacino impressions, and him and Harold Ramis worked with Joe Flaherty to come up with Guy Caballero. So that was the guy that was in the wheelchair that ran the network and was always like looking for cheap ways to cut costs and create silly shows. And the whole idea was that he was a satirist to make fun of all network execs that just didn't know exactly what the heck they were talking about, which hits way harder today than it did back in the late 70s and early 80s.
I didn't realize he wasn't Canadian, because he's one of the first. Joe Flaherty is one of the ones I think of when I think of that, because on that 70s show they had him and Dave Thomas play Mounties, and I guess it was a nod to SCTV, but I guess he's really not Canadian.
Not SCTV. One of the characters he did was Floyd Robertson, which is actually making fun of a CBC anchor named Lloyd Robertson, and they do, of course, you do Count Floyd in the Scary Movie with the 3D glasses and all that.
I remember that.
And the best part is that there's a background joke there, which is Floyd Robertson is trying to get the audience to buy the 3D glasses because he doesn't get paid to do that segment of the horror shows. So he's using that to try and get money, which is why he keeps talking about them all the time. And I'm like, that's pretty brilliant.
Adama, while we've been talking, I've been looking through my liked music playlist on YouTube Music, and I'm trying to like go through music that I listen to regularly to give you something epic. But if a lot of music I listen to is from a show or a movie already, because it's kind of like background music for me. But I keep coming back to, like, I feel like there would be is Kickstart My Heart in anything? Because that would be really cool to just see like people shooting guns and fighting. Like I could see Deadpool fighting to that song.
That's a good question.
So I'm actually not going to, at least not yet, I'm not going to elaborate on why, but 2 songs that I would love to utilize in a live action adaptation of something would be 1, Kickstart My Heart, and 2 would be Thunderstruck by AC/DC, which isn't even my favorite. I love it, but it's not nearly my favorite AC/DC song. But I would use it specifically, both of those in something, and at some point I will explain why, but not today. It is not this day.
Maybe we can use Super Freak in something too. That's just a good song.
Super Freak is a great song.
You could do AC/DC's Big Balls for a Deadpool movie when he's like crashing the gala.
We've got the biggest.
How has that not actually already happened?
Licensing, they didn't want to pay it.
Well, no, AC/DC was incredibly cheap to get rights for.
I was about to say, like last time we had a show, script, you mentioned the AC/DC is super easy to get their the like licensing for use of their music.
Oh yeah, they love it.
So they just that's why it's constantly charting. Like, hey, shout out to everybody that listened to and purchased the Glorious Death collaboration metal song between my boss Eric July and Dan Vask. this part of our Norfolk Glorious Death #1 pre-order collection. That charted #1 on Amazon overall. So that's all categories. #1 on iTunes for metal and hard rock, and it was #7 on the overall Billboard charts for metal and hard rock. But Thunderstruck specifically, and I had no idea this was a thing because I don't pay attention to music charts. I didn't until like last week when Eric was talking about the potential of the song charting. Thunderstruck is like always charting near #1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
It's a
I mean, I love
drinking
that song, but it's not like, I don't know, like Shoot to Thrill is my favorite AC/DC song.
Same here.
Long Way to the Top is a great one too.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean, no, they have a lot of hits. Same with Journey and Metallica has a couple here and there. I would say AC/DC.
Journey, Boston. I love Boston.
I mean, if you want to go abstract to a little bit of like, horns and metal, Chicago is pretty good. They have some good stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm literally
Tom
looking through
Sawyer
everything on
from
here. I'm
Rush.
just like,
has Tom Sawyer from Rush been used in a superhero film? Because there's a lot of like I can see Iron Man just tearing down a whole Hydra base to Tom Sawyer.
I can see that too. So his 9 is not for rent.
Actually, you could
It's
probably
in-
replace that in the first Iron Man, where he's freeing that Middle Eastern town. You could probably do that to Tom Sawyer, and then you have the big riff when he blows up the tank.
Better than the regular generic Iron Man score with that random rock guitar in it.
Well, I mean, Raymond Djawani, who didn't get a lot of time to score that movie because they were editing it right up to the wire. It was a miracle they managed to get like 2 themes in there, like the main one of like flying with the top down, and then the other one which was like thinking, which it was all real cool synth and computer type of stuff, but it had a nice little like this is gear porn music. Pretty
The
much
best kind.
Yeah.
and the best, and that riff, my God, after 2008 I must have seen 36 pilots use that in similar situations of people figuring stuff out as their temp music before they went to air, because people just loved it. They said this is exactly like the type of feeling and emotion we want for the scene. And so you'd have a whole bunch of these composers like Mark Snow or what have you, just like grinding as quickly as possible to do sound alikes for it.
That's the sound of like 2008-9 is what I think of when I think of that. I know it's got names, but I just think of that kind of scoring. One last Adama. I think Mad World by Tears for Fears could work in many different ways. It'd be interesting to see if you could like do one of those. Remember in the early days of YouTube, they had those shitty music videos that everyone would make, just like random songs. It's like, how many times do you need to see Linkin Park put the Dragon Ball Z? Like, enough is the answer.
I saw Linkin Park put to Naruto a lot.
Oh, who's that band that did the song Kryptonite? I saw that overused.
Oh,
in the
Three
late
Doors
90s.
Down?
Three Doors Down, yeah. I
That
like
should be in a
song still.
Superman movie.
That's like my.
Why is that
it
not in Man
yet?
of Steel?
Right.
Yeah, and he's like flying around.
Like the freaking grunge metal would have actually fit from Man of Steel's, and I'm not doing that rant. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing
I
it.
would love to
I
see
promise.
if there was like
Be good.
a commercial for like Beats by Dre or one of these products, and it's like Superman flying around listening to that song. He's like, yeah, and then he takes out his earbud or something, and he presses it to like answer a call from Lois. That'd be the dumbest commercial ever. But if you could put that song with that character, I'd buy the fucking product.
I've got a real one for you. I don't know if you can get it on Max, but if you have the original DVDs of Lois and Clark season 3, there's an episode there where they actually have REM's "I Am Superman" playing because Lois goes to an alternate Earth where Clark Kent hasn't become Superman yet, and she has to teach him to become Superman. And that's the song that they play during the montage where he's actually like being a hero for the first time out in public as Superman, and it works brilliantly well.
I need to check that out because I just like any time that they can use the character's name in a real song and put it with the character.
Oh God,
As long as
there's
they
like
don't do
100 Superman songs by various bands, but there's never a Batman song. Like no one ever writes a punk metal rock song about Batman.
Well, Batman wrote one, "Darkness, no parents," whatever he said in the Lego movie.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, voiced by Will Arnett, another Canadian to celebrate on Canada Day.
I'm trying to think, do I have any of my favorite comic book artists? Do they hail from Canada? No.
I don't think
But
so.
lots of like a lot of actors, musicians. Yeah, they come from Canada.
Yeah.
Here's a fake Canada fact for fake Canada fact number 1 for the night, folks. Canada's favorite rapper is Nelly.
Wow. I mean, that's a choice.
Well, he works at the Eaton Center, and he's really good with packages.
All right.
I forgot about Nelly. Well, good for him. I'm sure he's still rich. Enrique Vasquez says, for buff script, Dylon, son of a bitch. Oh, Dylan. Okay, yeah, no problem. Let's see. Oh, no. So I'm getting this stupid StreamYard glitch where I can't switch over my tabs. So I'm going to press you a different button for now, but I'll refresh when you guys are talking on the next subject, and then I will press it. But until then, Enrique, you get this one.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Danny. So, guys, folks in the chat, thank you for watching. We keep seeing the numbers roll up in the first hour. We haven't even hit our main topic, Jurassic World Rebirth. We are about to hit it hard. Now, you're going to hit it tomorrow night.
I'm going to see the 11 p.m. show. I was actually going to see, I was trying to see was it like a 7:15 or 7:10, something like that, but I was sold out. The next show after that only had a couple of seats left, and they were in places where it's like, I don't want to sit there. What does the 11 p.m. have? All right, I can pick a better seat here. I like whenever I can. Look, if I'm going to spend $20 on a movie ticket and probably order food and a drink, I want to sit like center and have a good view of the screen if I can.
Fancy for Jurassic Park.
And it's like my second or third. It's in contention with Godzilla. Favorite movie franchise of all time, and so I want to have a good time, right? I want to be comfy. I want to be at a good place. I don't want to freaking crink my neck or anything like that. So
I'm gonna wear a tuxedo for the next James Bond movie, so don't feel too bad.
Do it. Yes. You better take like a YouTube short video of you doing that. But yeah, I'm hyped to go see it. I have set my expectations at like neutral, as I tried to do with every single movie I go to see, and I just hope I have a fun time. I'm still a kid at heart. I want to enjoy a dinosaur movie, even if it has some things that don't look anything like dinosaurs.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to Jurassic Park, and I mean, like, I intellectually know because I've watched all the movies, some more than others. Okay, only the first one have I watched to completion more than once. I've fallen asleep throughout the other ones on multiple viewings. But I've seen them all. I know the story. I don't know what the hell... Like, the concept of Jurassic Park is awesome. So awesome, in fact, that Michael Crichton has used it multiple times. Like Westworld. Westworld is just Jurassic Park with androids. Like,
that's true.
Yeah.
What the hell? That's true.
That's the thing. Like, when everybody goes on about Michael Crichton, I'm like, I'm pretty sure the dude wrote this. I think there's a third one as well, but I'm pretty sure he wrote the same story 3 times, and it's just a different type of theme park: Westworld, Jurassic Park, and something else.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I read his original Jurassic Park novel when I was like 10 or 11. It's way different than the movie, like not just tonally, but like the story itself.
Well, there's no Jeff
so
Goldblum
much
to make
different.
it awesome.
Oh, maybe the Andromeda strain was the third one.
What was that?
Oh, okay.
I think the Andromeda strain would be the third one.
Okay.
Maybe that's it, because maybe that is it. But I'm just saying, like, it seems to be like a very similar premise, and it works. But as you get away from, like, well, it's a theme park with dinosaurs, what do we do? The second one made sense. Then you go to the third one, which doesn't make sense. And then you got the reboot with Jurassic World. But now there's another island that's somehow kept secret. It's the same old stuff. That's my complaint with this movie, based on the trailer, is what the hell can you do different? It's always man versus engineered dinosaur, and man usually loses. There's always a greedy corporation, rinse and repeat. And what I'm seeing, though, is like IGN gave this a 5. I've been reading a lot of comments on Twitter calling it just, rehash park and all this shit, and I haven't seen a lot of positivity. I guess I'll bury lead into this. I think this movie is going to get slayed by critics, but it's probably going to make $1 billion, even though it doesn't look very good to me.
No, I mean, kids love dinosaurs. They'll go to see those movies, even if they're bad. I mean, look no further than the King Kong franchise when they're mixed with Godzilla. I mean, those movies are not great, but people love big monsters and dinosaurs. Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like, I don't know where none of us talked about this. I don't know where y'all stand on whether looking forward to this movie or not looking forward to it, or you have no interest or whatever. You've been over the franchise in the first one. I need consistency from people when it comes to whether or not they take the critics, whether it's your ID or whatever, their scores account for really just about any. Because I thought we were kind of over that. For me, at least, they tend to rank pretty low all the movies that I enjoy, and not really pay attention to them outside of that. Like, I love, just to your point, like, they like the Monsters Godzilla films pretty low. I think the highest rated of all the Monsters films is Godzilla, which is a fantastic movie. But I don't care. Like, I love those movies enough that I purchased the pretty expensive collector's edition 4K Blu-ray set of all of them. So I don't care what the critics say. I would say that it seemed to be consistent when it comes to what it meant to be for flick films. Those outlets, online publications, and whatever, the critics, they tend to turn their noses up at it and say this is a horrible movie.
Andrew, you froze, man. You have been roboting out for the last point. I
Really?
was just making sure it wasn't. Yeah, you're talking like this. Broken.
What the hell?
Oh yeah, nope, yep, he's definitely roboting now.
I was just making sure it wasn't me
Okay.
because I'm sitting here. I'm going. Oh, hold on, maybe my internet's bad. We don't have a storm.
All right.
Yeah, I was there too, but then Dreff was just really motionless for a bit, and I was wondering if he froze, and then I was having the bad internet.
I'm gonna start doing that on shows when people say stuff that I don't want to hear. I'm like, and then see if they'll break. Yeah, let's play a game. Joseph Bianowicz, can you figure out what Andrew just said? Oh, there he dropped. Damn it. Well,
he'll be back.
Yeah. No. I saw the point somebody made a minute ago. Like, look at the Bayformers. Eventually, people got tired of those pieces of trash too. I think Jurassic Park is pushing itself towards irrelevancy as a franchise, to a point where it's like, oh, great, another one.
It's oversaturated because we have now 2 trilogies, or no, 3 trilogies. Wait, how many? Is this the 7th or 8th one? I don't know. I've lost count. But that's a problem.
This is the 7th film.
Okay, so this is technically the start of a 3rd trilogy. And I will say this, because they actually really haven't done much to bring something new to this franchise. I think, older people will have a little bit of a disconnect to it, but I still think kids are gonna love going to see new dinosaurs. Especially, I think there's a Rancor in this one. So
It looks like a Rancor. Is my audio better? Am I no longer roboting? Okay,
You're back
Cool.
to your normal self.
My bad. Well, my apologies on both accounts, I guess.
Yes, because you control the internet. You are the man who ran the fiber optic cables from your home
I guess
to the circuit box. It's all your
that's
fault.
my
Folks,
bad.
Folks, if you have an internet problem, make sure you follow ND Andrew on Twitter and just lay into him. Like, man, my internet dropped during my gaming session. Son of a bitch.
That's my bad. That's all on me. All on me, guys. I don't know what you last heard. All I'll say in summation is I'm looking forward to the movie. My expectations are at neutral. Hopefully I have fun. Yes, it's funny that it looks like we have a Rancor. I don't quite know what to make of that just yet, but hopefully the movie itself is just fun and I have a good time. And that's all I need out of a movie with dinosaurs. I'm not looking for anything groundbreaking or mind-blowing.
I just don't want to be
honestly.
bored.
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't want to be bored. I also don't want to be annoyed. I was both of those things with Jurassic Park 3. I know a lot of people don't like the Jurassic World films. I love all 3 of them, despite some of the stupidity in a couple of them. I had a great time with all of them. I had a great time watching them in theaters with my dad. They're fun films to me. So Rotten Tomatoes and IGN ranked all of those pretty low, and I had a great time with all of them. They did the same thing with most of the MonsterVerse films. I had a great time with all those. So my expectations are neutral, and those are my own. And as long as I come out of the theater having had a good time, that's what matters to me.
I don't think I'll watch this movie. Like, maybe
That's fair.
ever. Because when I was
A
living
lot of
out
people
west,
didn't want to not watch another Jurassic movie after the third one.
Well, yeah, I didn't hate
Some after the second.
I didn't hate Jurassic World 1. I watched that and I went, okay.
It's kind of Jurassic Park, but they tweaked a couple of things. You know,
It's The Force Awakens.
it's safe. It's a safe film.
Everybody seems to like The Force Awakens but me. Actually, that's not true. Lots of people hate it. But it's the soft reboot. And how can you do, let's say, script, you're right. Let's say this is the start of another trilogy. How do you soft reboot Jurassic Park for a second time? So it would be its third shot at, trying it. God. I think it's just, personally, if I had to say of movies, the giant CGI fests where actors just like act to a green screen and some leaves, I don't buy into that anymore. I'm watching stuff that's either on a smaller scale or that's a little more personal or that's just unique and fun. There are a lot of movies out there that don't need $300 million budget and they still kick ass.
Did you see that movie 65 with
Adam
Driver?
Yeah.
That did not look interesting. How was it?
It was actually really cool. Like it's not, full disclosure, it is not like a high octane, super high intensity, action packed film. It has a couple of moments which are pretty intense, but the rest of it is a lot slower paced, which I thought I was going to hate, but I wound up really enjoying. Like, it was actually a really cool film to watch. And maybe that's because it's like, well, I mean, if I want a higher paced, dinosaur movie, I'll just watch the Jurassic films. I've got those already, right? So I was like, well, this is something different. I don't need just a clone, just another Jurassic Park film, right?
Give us dinosaurs that have been domesticated, and they're really just biding their time to eat their owners.
So the raptor is Puppy.
Sure, yeah.
Can we just have one where like the dinosaurs like fight for their right to vote? I would watch that movie. Like dinosaur
Airdrop
suffrage.
Tyrannosaurus Rex into the Middle East to battle terrorists.
That just sounds fucking cool, man. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
but
no,
I mean-
the bunker busters won't work. Hold on, we got the T-Rex, and all of a sudden,
Right.
just a
Strap
swarm
a
will come
parachute
down
on
with
it.
little parachutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they
can't
kind
be
of
controlled. They can just be directed, and they just tear into them.
Yeah.
that was an idea that they toyed with throughout the entire Jurassic World trilogy, though, right? Like they were trying that with the raptors in the Velociraptors in the first Jurassic World, and that turned out to be a bad idea. So in their infinite wisdom, they decided to try and make a hybrid of a Velociraptor and the Indominus Rex for the second film. Like, we're going to weaponize this. You can figure out how that turned out for them. And then the third one, they had the Indoraptors, which they were like trained via like laser sight and all of that to like hunt people. And that actually turned out to be a really cool chase scene. I really
Is it the
enjoyed that.
motorcycle one?
Yeah. Like, I liked
See-
that chase scene. That was fun to me.
That's the element. Thank you. You helped me pinpoint what I hate about the other non-first Jurassic Park. It's that weaponized military element, shadow government, blah blah blah. It's like the fucking. They're like Transformers movies where it's like, oh, the government's gonna get involved and all. Like, a great concept is great until the government gets involved, and then the story's just shit. Like, then we make it realistic. Like, I like when it's just like, this is magical, not magical, this secret island, and we're gonna open a theme park to make money, but the shit gets loose and eats people. Great concept.
It's kind of
Very
funny.
Spielberg. But then when it's like, we're going to go to a clandestine location and bid on a raptor that we're going to weaponize to fight our enemies. Like, that is the dumbest shit. Like, I can buy that you took DNA from a mosquito inside of a sap or whatever, fossilized tree sap. Yeah, amber. I'll buy that one. But when you tell me that some foreign government is going to, we're going to invest $14 billion in raptor technology. That's the dumbest shit. Like, I just always laugh. Like,
I mean,
I'll buy
I don't
robots,
know.
I'll
The
buy
U.S.
drones.
government has invested millions and millions of dollars into, pigeons playing chess and lizards on treadmills. So, I mean, they've done dumber stuff.
They're worried about the health of the reptile community. You need to understand how important they are to our ecosystem.
This is all for the herpetologists.
I mean, that's the next part. Jurassic World, Mars. They send all the dinosaurs to Mars so that that when they die, their bones will actually cause a new atmosphere to develop on the planet.
Underground dino fight clubs, and then you'll get like the freaking Greenpeace version of anti dino fighting. Dog fighting's bad to begin with, but then do dino fighting, you'll get people cropping up for that.
Let's take it one step further. After the dinosaurs had been sold into an underground fighting ring, they escaped to Mars for their freedom, but then it becomes an allegory about civil rights, and the dinosaurs fight amongst themselves, and the T-Rexes oppose.
Let's just skip all the bullshit and go straight to Velocipaster. All right,
I was gonna say Diversity Dinosaur, our WCBS creation. We want Diversity Dinosaur, folks.
Diversity.
Open the door, get on the floor. It's Diversity Dinosaur.
Diversity.
Is that when the Tyrannosaurus Rex decides that it wants to be Transraptor, so it gets arm extensions?
Yes. I actually wrote a Change.org petition about transgender dinosaurs in the next Jurassic Park. Hold on, let me find it real quick. I'll read it.
Oh my god!
I was bored one night, and I was just like, "Hey, let's do something."
I'm gonna
stupid.
die.
I mean, we technically had those in the first Jurassic Park film.
That's hilarious.
It's the T-Rex, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's view the petition. I forgot that I even had this. No, I didn't. I got an email about somebody being fired for being gay. I'm like, my Change.org petition was to troll people, not to actually try to change fucking society.
Y'all did not understand the freaking assignment.
Here it is. Gender inclusive dinosaurs. That's what it was.
Oh my God in heaven.
Dear Universal, for decades, Jurassic Park has been a cinematic masterpiece that has captured the imagination of millions. However, as we continue to push the boundaries of storytelling and scientific exploration, we believe it's time for Jurassic Park to take the next bold step in genetic inclusivity by introducing transgender T-Rexes. As Dr. Ian Malcolm famously warned, life finds a way, but what if life also is finding a way with its identity? Given that Jurassic Park...
make it so.
That's good.
I mean, I wrote this, so why am I'm cringing at my own shit. Anyway,
it's authentic in capturing that voice.
I made a fictional guy on change.org. Here, I'll show it to you real quick. See, this is when AI can be used for good. Right here. Folks, Jeff didn't write this, but Curtis Lendenfield did, from East Rutherford, New Jersey. I never expected to find myself face-to-face with a whale. An avid but socially awkward nature enthusiast, I run a niche blog called Deep Sea Downloads, where I share fun facts about ocean life, despite never having seen the ocean.
What?
So he's in a landlocked country.
That's like comics Twitter is what that is.
Which is funny because he's in New Jersey, which is literally on the border of an ocean.
That's why I wrote this shit. I mean, I even used AI to create this gender-inclusive dinosaur with rainbow feathers and shit. Like, come on now. I got all my bases covered.
How
care.
old is this petition?
A couple of months back. Nobody gives a shit about it. It's stupid. Oh, anyway, folks. I just wanted to pose the question to you, though. This is the big thing about the Jurassic Park topic. Are there any other franchises that you're just exhausted with? Because I'm not trying to ruin anybody's cinematic experience, but god damn it, I don't want to see Jurassic Park, The Fast and the Furious. You're
getting one more.
Oh yeah, they're going to space and they're bringing back what's his face, right?
Oh, according to Vin Diesel, the final Fast and Furious movie is going to go back to street racing. I don't know how you put that genie back in the bottle.
I think
is it street racing from Earth to Mars?
Are we? I was about to say, are we street racing on Venus now, or is it?
I live my life a quarter light speed at a time. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that means, but
1 parsec at a time.
Yeah,
quarter C. Yeah.
But here are some of the franchises that I wrote down that I'm actually tired of. Like, and I just never want to see them come back: Transformers, The Terminator, Pirates of the Caribbean, Alien or Predator, and anything Lord of the Rings or Star Wars.
Oh man, I hate to break it to you, but literally all of those things, except for what was the second one you said?
Transformers, Terminator.
Terminator. All of those other things have had new projects freaking announced. Terminator's the only one that I think is, at least at the moment, dead, and it should stay that way because the last two were abysmal.
I would love to be able to like meet the people that own Terminator, so like James Cameron and Gale Hurd, and be like, look, it's not a James Cameron property. It's not a property about anything but Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what I hate about certain movies today. It's like, it's clearly this dude's movie. Well, now we're going to do a whole franchise because we can cash in on them. It's like, no, the fuck you can't. Nobody gives a shit about Mackenzie Davis or the random Mexican lady or that dude that was in a bunch of movies like Avatar and then never really starred in anything else. Like, it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger picture.
Sam Worthington.
Thank you. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger picture. Nobody out there is like, if you go to watch Terminator 1 for like Lance Henriksen, fine, he's a good actor, but that's not why you're watching it. Same thing with T2. Oh, Robert Patrick's the best actor. You never heard of him until Terminator 2. Yeah, you might have seen Die Hard 2, but you didn't know his fucking name. But my point is, like, we live in this era where everything, they extrapolate, they expound upon these things, and it becomes lesser. It's like a copy of a copy. It's all diluted.
Yeah.
And I don't want any more dilution to Terminator. I don't want
franchise,
any more.
It's that franchise mentality, right? Where everything has to be a franchise, and part of this is I can't even really put that on the MCU. We can blame the MCU for the whole spin-off thing, maybe, or the interconnected universe, but unfortunately, there's been this mentality, and maybe Script, you can expound on this a little bit and enlighten us with your infinite wisdom up there on Canada Day, where everything has to you get lightning in a bottle once, right? And then you're like, well, maybe we can reuse that lightning over and over and over again, even if your first 2, 3, or 4 attempts at doing so turn out to be utter busts. Like, you lucked out with Predator 2 doing fine, I think.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as big as the first one. And then they were like, well, we can still make a huge franchise out of this because, the first 2 Alien movies did great. But then there were diminishing returns. And so this franchise mentality is, and maybe that goes back to what you've mentioned a number of times on the show Script, with Hollywood tries to operate in a very safe mentality, at least internally they think they are, where it's like, oh, well, this thing was a hit, so let's do another one of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they look at it as all the hard work they put into the first one should have additional returns on subsequent entries to that franchise. And there's a little bit of a logic to that, because even book series like Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, he did the first one, people are like, we want more, and he had more stories to tell until he got sick and tired of it and finally killed off the character, only for other writers to come in and be like, nope, that was all a ruse. But yeah, like it's sometimes, I mean, the other part too is sometimes there's studios, they get really excited about a franchise and they are like, you know what, we just really like this thing ourselves. We know it's an audience pleaser. Let's keep making them until they're no longer audience pleasers. So like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street were big representations of that. Heck, even the Fast and the Furious franchise, that took a while before it picked up steam. Like the first movie did okay, and it had its niche popularity. And the second one, like, people were scoffing at.
It was more popular in like Mexico and South America. Yeah,
but then the third one kind of changed things a little bit. And then when they did Fast and the Furious 4, that is when the Latin audience decided to show up in droves, because they finally caught up to what was going on with those films. And as soon as they realized that, oh, wow, all of our Latin and Spanish-speaking audience members really love these movies. Why do they love about them? Oh, the concept of family. So all we're going to do is talk about family from 4 all the way onto the current one. Yeah. It's always been about that. And the other part, too, is that, and this is a hard lesson for a lot of screenwriters to get over. It's a really difficult lesson for studio execs to get over, and most of them never do. And that is, when you're doing a follow-up story to a franchise, bigger and better doesn't mean bigger and better literally. It really just means higher stakes and shorter first acts to get into that second act, because your first act is 15 to 25 minutes establishing the characters, their goals, and what they need to. But when you're doing a follow-up film, you already have that first movie under your belt, so you can do a very abridged version of reestablishing that character in like 2-3 minutes, and then you get right into the first act and that inciting incident, and then boom, it's a home stretch to your climax. Those mentalities don't always work, because they try. Iron Man 2 is a great example of that, because they literally wanted to do Demon in a Bottle, an internal.
That's what Favreau wanted to do, and Disney was like, no, you're not.
Disney was negotiating purchasing of the Marvel distribution rights from Ike Perlmutter, and Ike was in that position where he's like, listen, just stick to what we did the first movie, because we're closing this deal, what have you. And then Disney got really all indignant on Jon Favreau, because they're like, well, even though this isn't going to be distributed under the Disney brand, we do not want to have alcoholism as a thing in a franchise that we're going to be taking over. And as a result, what did they do? Well, they repeated the beat that made Iron Man 1 successful, which is Iron Man versus another Iron Man suit. Only this time, it's a bunch of drones and a guy in an Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
And then we bring
which is why
Iron
it
Man.
was a fraction of the movie of the first one.
Yeah, what's crazy is that there's some cool stuff in Iron Man 2 that just gets kind of left at the wayside because of all the other hoopla going on. But that is literally a tug of war between Jon Favreau doing a bigger and better sequel that actually had something more essential to do with character, and then the studio getting involved and being like, no, bigger and better just means more of the cool stuff.
Well, I think there's also a misconception of this bigger and better mentality, because you don't always have to try and necessarily one up the story prior. You just have to don't repeat the same story over and over again, which is what a lot of franchises try and do to some degree or another, and to very varying degrees of success. You can just tell, okay, so now we have this character established. Now what do we do with them? What kind of stories can we actually tell with this character? A franchise that I look to all the time for an example of this, perfect example really, is the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Because every single movie after the first one felt like a try-hard version of just one-upping the first one. It's like Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow was perfect in the first film, but every film after that just felt like they were trying to, make him more goofy, more ridiculous, right? More obscene. And it's like, you're missing the point. And it's frustrating because you don't need to do that.
Well, all you need to do is just provide stakes that are still high, but they don't have to retread the same thing before.
Correct.
It's a tricky thing to do, because you always want to go into what works and also what appeals to your broadest audience. And you can never be 100% certain what the audience is going to like, but you can always try to do the one thing that works more often than not, which is showing them something new. Because for film, you always want to be showing something new. Where television, you want the show itself to be something new, but you want the episodes to be familiar and safe and welcoming into your home. That is why streaming series have always been kind of suffering a little bit, because each season is kind of them trying to do something new. And on top of that, each episode is also building up to the previous one. There's nothing comforting about it, because it's all trying to do cinematic or theatrical versions of a story arc over 6 to 8 to 12 episodes. And the reason movies are the way they are is because there's a natural rhythm to story, and there's some that can work in novelistic form that can be 1,100 or 2,000 pages. And then there's some that work in radio, some that work in television or film, where there is only so much information a human being can process in a single sitting that you have to tailor your story to fit that window. And that is why we have movies that are between 90 minutes and traditionally 2 hours. The 3-hour films have actually shown a lot of issues in rewatchability and also in popularity, unless they are basically, the end of a long-standing franchise, or you have something like the rare exception of Lord of the Rings.
I was going to say, unless you're Lord of the Rings, if your movie is 3 hours plus, that's a hard sell.
Lord of the Rings was the huge undertaking for Peter Jackson, because he spent years figuring out pacing, and he was going to make only 2 films that were going to chronicle the entirety of Lord of the Rings. 2 films. And you could imagine how much you'd have to have left on the cutting room floor in order to meet 2 films, roughly 2.5 hours each, in order to cover that entire story. He was fortunate that Bob Shea was like, well, wait a minute, there's technically like 3 books. Why don't we just do a movie per book? And Peter Jackson was like, oh, well, that'll be easier, because he had worked so hard beforehand just to try and nail it down to 2 films. And that shows his due diligence and his work ethic to basically say, I got to find a way to make this work in the shortest amount of time possible, because it's such a long book, because it's such a long thing. Now, conversely, you go over to, say, Apple Plus, and you take a look at Foundation, which is an Isaac Asimov book series. It's extremely long. It's incredibly dense. It's a little bit convoluted because it's got psychohistory and what that means, and this whole patterns of like, you know, kings and princes and breaking the chain and rebuilding humanity, et cetera, et cetera. It's a nightmare of a story to try and adapt. But the thing is, it can be adaptable probably as a mini series, but not as a streaming series. And that's the thing. Like, they went streaming series with it, and they spent a ton of money. And it's a show that I couldn't follow the first season of it because it's written by David S. Goyer, who is not a good
your
writer.
buddy.
Yeah, pretty terrible writer. He got lucky, and the other part too is he knows how to schmooze in Hollywood, where he can pick apart stories as a book that he's read and say, like, these are the best parts of the book that you want to adapt to a thing. But when you try to dig in deeper about how he understands those meanings, those motifs, those characters, he's just throwing BS into the air, you know, talking gobbledygook. And it's worked out well for him, but the execution has actually put him to a point where he used to be a sought-after writer between like 1995 to 2008. And nowadays it's like, well, he's working on a bunch of little stuff, but stuff that's never really going to hit, you know, the actual market itself. Like, it's never going to be a sweeping success like Tulsa King was. It's not going to have the stuff of Yellowstone or The Terminal List. When that hit actually pretty large for a streaming series. Surprisingly,
I was going to say that did really well.
Is that the Chris Pratt
or House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon like exploded that first season. David S. Goyer's never been able to do that, and because they gave him Foundation, because he's the comic book sci-fi guy. It's like, no, he wishes he could be the comic book sci-fi guy.
I'll be the comic book sci-fi guy. Hollywood, just raising my hand in the back. Actually, I don't really know what I'd write. No, he's one of those names that keeps me away. Kind of like, who was the other one? Not Akiva Goldsman, because that's just too old. But David S. Goyer. But there was a couple more that it was like, they were involved with, what's it, Orsi and
Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman. There's Chris Terrio. Chris Terrio wrote Justice League with Zack Snyder's Justice League, and he wrote Batman v Superman. He also wrote
stop giving me
Rise of Skywalker.
Reasons to want to throw up.
Yeah, he wrote the Rise of Skywalker too. Dave Callahan, who fortunately has finally been exposed for the fraud that he is, so he's not getting much work anymore. He wrote Wonder Woman 84.
Goodbye.
And Mortal Kombat from 2021.
Get out of here. Go. Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
Honestly, as much as the third act of the first Wonder Woman film was a letdown, the drop in quality from that first film to Wonder Woman 1984 might have been the largest drops in quality from one entry to another for a comic book film.
For any film, dude.
Just any film in general. All right, I was going to be generous and be like any comic book film in the last couple of decades. But all right, like I can't necessarily argue with that.
It
was
like they only watched.
Awful.
Okay, so Wonder Woman 84 was like they watched the movie Commando, then a bunch of John Hughes films like 16 Candles, Weird Science, and let's see, what's another good one?
Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club, yeah, and said that's the 80s. We'll just put Wonder Woman there because look at that mall scene that she does in the opening act. That is almost exactly what they're trying to recreate from Commando when he's like, you know, throwing out tearing off the phone booth and throwing it over the balcony and then swinging on the balloons and all that stuff. They're literally like, oh yeah, we saw that mall in Commando. That's an 80s looking mall, so we'll just put that in Wonder Woman 84 because we don't do any more research than that.
You know what vibe I got from that scene is, oh, they must have seen the last season of Stranger Things, and they're trying to cash in on it for the kids. It's like, hey, 80s malls, that's all they know. But I agree with you, dude. Like
That movie was so bad.
It has no redeeming quality.
No.
It even has
It made
Pedro
me-
Pascal in it.
Well, okay, so the only things that I like about that movie were the fact that I don't know if it was for practical effects or if it was the filter for the film. Maybe the script can expound on that. I liked that her suit, I liked that Diana's suit was a bit more vibrant.
Yeah.
Because I hate the stupid dark, like that's like brown maroon in the frickin' Snyder films, right? It's like, Diana, stop. DC should have some vibrancy to it. And I'll give it at least that for her costume, but the story, the script, everything else about that film was just so abysmally awful.
They didn't know what story to tell. They didn't have an idea what story to tell, and that's unfortunate because was it Professor Psycho, the little dwarfy psychotic guy? He would have been a great villain for Wonder Woman. I mean, they used Cheetah and Maxwell Lord, and I was just like, they're kind of mid tier for Wonder Woman.
And I'm sorry, that Maxwell Lord was not Maxwell Lord. He was
just a con artist on television like that.
Yeah,
Life
he
is
was
good, but it can be better.
Yeah.
He was Maxwell Lord in name only. There was nothing about that character that screamed or even whispered Maxwell Lord from the comic books. There was nothing about him that was remotely similar, aside from the name.
Didn't whisper it?
Which is funny
No,
because
didn't even
Jeff
whisper.
Johns was one of the creative consultants on that movie, and you'd think, oh yeah, he would know stuff. It's like, listen, I've had some crossings with Jeff Johns for very short stints of time. And I think he works really well in comic book form, but I don't know why. He
doesn't know what he's doing
I've
in
been
movies.
able to cross over for film and television because even his Stargirl series was okay, but I know a lot of writers that were basically up nights for weeks reworking the script so that it could be in the right shape and form needed for that show to work. And that show barely worked because it's trying to reconcile the whole DEI stuff, but make the characters interesting so that they're not horrible characters. And it was really tough, but it did have a great irony to it, which is they had the League of Evil wanted to do like all these crazy communistic things that youthful people would think, oh, well, that's a good thing, right? And they're like, yeah, these are all really good things. Why would we want to stop that? It's because the way that they're giving you all those good things is they're removing your choice and agency in order to actually like enjoy them. And that was kind of like the argument what they're saying, like, yeah, this is why communism doesn't work. This is why you can't compel certain actions to happen. You have to create a better argument for them. If you want affordable healthcare, you can't just force it down people's throats because businesses and other companies are going to push back on that. You have to create an angle or an argument for it to be like, well, should you be profiting off of people dying or should you be profiting off of people being healthy? Like, and how do you do that? And a business model to medical stuff has been the biggest quagmire the world has been trying to reconcile since medicine has been invented. But yeah, that was one of the commentaries they did in their first season, which I thought was pretty funny because you can tell there was a lot of people, especially at Disney, that really hated that season. and this was a DC Warner Brothers project.
Yeah.
I'm glad Jeff Johns is going back to comics. It's where he should stay.
He's doing great work over at Image right now with the Ghost Machine universe, which is ironically made up of a bunch of like ex-DC artists and writers. And they created their own new universe there, and it's just doing fantastically. The writing is peak because it's like all of the best writers from DC from the last like decade. You got Jeff Johns, you got Peter J. Tomasi, you got James Tynion IV, and then you got some of the best artists as well, like Jason Fabok and all these guys. That's like, wow, that's kind of an all-star cast. And they just said, nah, you know what? See you later, DC. We're good. Like we worked on Superman, we worked on Batman, we worked on Justice League. We're good. We're gonna go over here and do our own thing now. It's not quite what the original Image guys did, back in the 90s, when they gave Marvel the finger and then subsequently DC the finger.
Yeah, because it was just a bunch of artists that really weren't good writers. Like
no, they weren't.
But
these guys can actually write.
Yeah, well, of the original Image founders, give me an Image founder that's actually a good writer.
No, because this wasn't the third generation of Image guys that were good writers kind of came in there, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like,
I can give you, like, McFarlane is good at an idea.
Yes,
he's a conceptual producer for comics. He's really good at that. Costumes, characters.
But as far as like scripting out or really detailed, and I love Todd McFarlane, to be very clear, but as far as like a detailed, intricate, really well thought through script, he's not that guy.
Yeah, but I also don't necessarily think comics need to be that, and I think that's more of
You're correct.
A modern thing that we've put on, because comic books seem to keep sliding out of relevancy. So they keep trying to put, like, the term graphic novel. Now, I use this phrase, church up, and a lot of people know what that means, but, like, when you say graphic novel, to me, it sounds like you're just trying to church up a comic book. Like, there's no shame to be involved with making comics. You don't need to church it up. I also think,
I understand what
they've turned comic books into this written medium, which, yes, you need words to tell the story, but it's always been an art-driven medium. And
it's a visual medium first and foremost, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I want to get pushed back into that. I'm not saying I want the extreme 90s, but, like, I also don't want
there's
this,
no
like,
story.
I don't want this, like, Robert Kirkman 193 issue nothing story called The Walking Dead. Like,
you mean Days of Our Lives with zombies? Yeah, I'm good.
I mean, that franchise killed zombies as a whole. Like, they cashed in hard, and they made their money, and AMC made their show. And now you can't touch zombies anymore because The Walking Dead, it's still going on, and it's still sucking the bone dry. Like, that.
Wait, do they still have spin-offs going on right now?
Yes, because it's a literal zombie franchise. It's still, entering our airwaves, but it's not actually doing anything to contribute to.
I'm going to stick with Resident Evil. Okay, thanks, bye.
That can go the way of the dodo, too.
I saw the first season of the AMC show. I'd never read the books. I saw the first season. I was like, that was pretty not bad. I'm good. Like, I can see this going the way of being just Days of Our Lives with zombies, and I'm okay. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. I got other things I can do. That's honestly what I've been told. I also have been told that I haven't seen some, like, the highlights, but I'm okay. I don't need it.
There aren't highlights to The Walking Dead. It's garbage. I watched almost every episode. It's one of those shows that people try to tell you.
Other people.
Well, some people are like, it's really good. No, the fuck it's not. It's like D-list entertainment with an A-list budget.
Yeah.
It falls apart so fast, dude. Like, the acting isn't that great. The cinematography is whatever. The zombie effects look cool. But the story is
because there's a lot of
boring.
practical effects. For the most
part, practical effects, but it's all about how do you corner the living around the dead, and how many ways can you do that before it gets really boring and redundant?
All right.
Yeah. So, like, if you can just, folks, if you have never watched The Walking Dead, don't. Just don't. Like, it's like that. I need to get the trailer from Grindhouse on the channel for a button. Don't. Are you gonna watch The Walking Dead? Don't. Are you thinking about it? Don't. Like, you can skip it all, folks. It's guy wakes up. Finds out it's 28 days later, essentially.
Yeah.
Except his friend is fucking his wife.
But it's extended across hundreds of
said that he died, so she doesn't feel guilty about it. And then he shows up alive, and there he is.
Well, to your point, Jeff, this goes back to what I had mentioned earlier when we were talking about Alan Moore, and what I at least don't appreciate that the result of his Watchmen was for, I think, comic books as a medium and the industry at large. When you talk about churching up comic books, you don't like this whole deconstructing things and trying to make it this, big brain thing, which, look, writers can only write something as smart as they are. And a lot of writers try and write things that are a lot smarter conceptually than they are. And it shows. You can tell. Anybody with a lick of intelligence can see it when you read it. And it's unfortunate and unnecessary because comic books at the end of the day are, yes, as you said, a visual storytelling medium. The art comes first. You hear it said a lot. One of my editors over at the Rippaverse has said it. You've said it, I know for sure, on the show. I'm pretty sure Script said it as well, where you should be able to look at a page of a comic book with all of the dialogue removed, all the captions removed, everything, and have some general idea of what's going on. You don't necessarily need to know all the little, nuances and intricacies, but you should have a general guess of what's happening based on the art.
Yeah,
the artist is the most
going for. Yeah,
the artist is the most important storyteller. The words and all of that, those are important, but the art is what. Like, why would you buy a comic book if you're not there for the art?
Well,
go read a book.
The artist is like the comparative nature of like a director and a cinematographer for a film,
yeah.
Right? So they're the ones that are like, how can I best express the narrative of this story visually based on the notes that are given, from the panel layouts on the script and what's going on in the scene? How can I best effectively tell that? The thing is that what makes comics really, at least at their peak that I have found, is you have a simple plot with complex characters, but you don't complex their dialogue, because the best stories are still character driven, but sometimes the plot can be a bit more forefront than they are with the character focus, because really the characters driven is that there's a conflict at hand, which is what's driving the plot. And what's driving the plot is the character has a want that is conflicting with another character's own want. And that's the drama that we're following. And you only need to tell a simple story between those characters trying to achieve that common goal across 22 or 58 or 69 or 100 pages. You don't need to go into this whole depth of B plots and C plots and D plots, because it's not necessarily relevant. The focus is going to be on the visual side of the medium and getting from point A, B to C, and then the character either achieving their goal, if it's the hero stopping the villain, or the villain achieving the goal, having thwarted the hero. And then you can either pick up where that story left off, or you can just end it right then and there. It's very pulpy in its style, because it's all about just the simplicity across the board. A simple plot with slightly more complicated characters and not overly simple characters, because then you're not even interested in watching them go from page to page, panel to panel on their story. But you're not overburdening it, because that's what we saw between 2012 and, say, 2019, 2021, with some exceptions. You would have those stories where you would have a page that's like 2 panels, and it's nothing but a wall of text from a monologue of a character.
It's funny that you say that. I have Batman Court of Owls right here in front of me, and this is a fantastic story. And Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo did some of the best Batman work since, like, Chuck Dixon and Denny O'Neil and Adams. But something that Scott Snyder has a habit of doing sometimes is getting way too wordy on a page. And it's like, bro, like, why is there this? I get every now and then you can, as long as it's purposeful, as long as it's not just like expositional, you can have a panel or a page where maybe there's a little bit more dialogue than normal, but don't make that your whole comic. If you do that, you're detracting away from the art, because that's a lot of dialogue that you're gonna have to put in a bubble. That's got to be in a word bubble, and that's going to cover up some of the art that an artist like Greg Capullo or whoever else spent a really long time drawing, whether it's the background or whether it's the characters. And a good writer, like, as somebody who, and Jeff, you understand this as well, Script, you understand this, both of y'all are writers. At the Rippaverse, Chuck Dixon can crank out scripts like it's nothing. And he talks all the time about, like, I have the easiest part of this. And Chuck is also a super humble guy. And so he downplays a lot of what he does. But he says, like, I spent basically 5 minutes on a script, and then somebody like Joe Bennett will spend months banging out these super intricate pages, right? Because the artist is the one who does all the heavy lifting when it comes to how much time it takes to do that part of the process. The art takes the longest, the lines, right? And that's why the line artist tends to make the most out of, you know, you do the breakdown of, you know, who gets paid what. The line artist gets paid the most, especially if they also do their own inks, because that's the biggest time investment, right? And so
I wish more people thought like you, because everyone thinks the writer should get the king's sum of everything. It's like you just said, even Stan Lee would say, like, there's an old Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man annual has a how the books are made feature, and he keeps going to Steve Ditko, I forgot it, I write it in 5 whatever, and it takes you forever to do this. Like, that's always been the thing.
No, the artist spends the most time, that like in the time that it takes, and I'll use this as an example again, because Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett are kind of a dynamic duo over at the Rippaverse. Joe Bennett is so consistent with, he turns his pages in like the same day every single week within like an hour or 2 variants. Every single week he turns in 5-6 pages, and the man is a machine. But he spends so much time on those compared to how much time it takes to write the script. No matter how good the script is, typing the words, especially if you're a practiced writer, right? You can type fairly fast. And as long as you've like hammered it out in a solid outline, you can do that pretty quickly. Drawing the thing is going to take way longer, especially if you have an art style that's super detailed. And so, yeah, the artist should be making the most.
Well, dude, that's why I draw my interiors a certain way and like the covers differently. And then like Stealing Solo, the first one, I came up with the outline at the gym, and I went to my phone and I wrote it down, and then I came home. And then I took that outline and I expanded it, and that was the script. That's literally it. And the thing that I get to do, since I do all the creative parts, is like with Wokebusters, I rewrote that book a couple times to the point where it's like at the end or towards the second half of the book when they're talking about something, I was like, a joke would fit here about the volley. And I just, you know, like if this was like production line shit, you couldn't do that. I like, you know, having that kind of freedom, and I think a lot of independent people, like I'm sure you guys do too. If Chuck Dixon were to say, I think this joke would fit right here with the same exact art, I'd like to change it, and you're a couple hours from print, you know, that's still possible. It's not really a hard thing to do.
No, I mean, I think that's different, and it's easier on the comic book side of things because the stories are more shorter and condensed. You're trying to do a writing stuff for like a cartoon. You're spending as much time writing the script as you are getting the animations done, because as you're writing your initial drafts, you're then getting off to a storyboard artist, because then they have to do your templates for that's going to be shipped overseas for the artist to do, but you're still rewriting it just to make sure that when it hits and lands, because there's so much time, effort, and then of course recording the cast for it, that if you don't get it right correct out of the gate, you are boned. This just goes to what was going on with Batman the Animated Series at the time. So they would spend about 3 months writing the first draft of their scripts for episodes. They'd then do your first round of voice recordings, and then from those voice recordings, they would then have to rewrite the script to better fit the pace, make sure they hit their time frame, and then by that time they would have their storyboards done for the script. They'd have to reissue the storyboards from the timing. Then they would have to re-record the actors again, and then ship the script out to the animators to do it. And the animators, because there's also thousands of them working on it at the same time, where there's only like a handful of writers doing it, they were able to get the episodes back within like 2 months, and then they would just have to cut it together, put in all the mixing, and do all the final parts. But that's a different aspect compared to comics, where you have one writer or maybe sometimes 2 writers, and either a single artist, your inker, and then your colorist. Sometimes you can have one guy that does all 3 of the jobs, and sometimes you can have 3 or 4 people, sharing the workload. But the thing is, once that script is handed off, and your thumbnails and maybe your pencils come in, and then they get approved by the editorial with maybe consultation from the writer if they're cared that much enough to do it.
And a lot of times they don't.
And a lot of times they don't. But I mean, listen, I worked with a couple of writers as an editor on some indie comics where every page that came in, the writer who is also financing the stuff would look at it, make sure it's exactly what it needed to be, make some tweaks, and then send off their notes to the artist to actually do the updates or move on to the next stage for inking. And it's like, that is 2 tiers. That's 2 different tiers with regards to writing for comics. With a guy like Chuck Dixon, the guy's got like 40 years under his belt doing this stuff. He knows how to do it. He can pump it off. He's used to making and then hitting those deadlines. So yeah, he just thinks in that way naturally for that format all the time. You try to do the same thing by taking, say, a comic book writer like Jeff Johns and putting him into a screenplay format. He can't do the same things and have it work effectively on visual.
Completely
And the same
different
thing is vice
beast.
versa. A guy that's an experienced screenwriter trying to do a comic, it's really difficult because screenwriting rules and screenwriting stories have a lot more tiers to them that you don't necessarily need in a comic book. So you got to be able to figure out, well, how do you separate that out and just stick with like an A plot and maybe a B plot if you want. But really, you just need to focus.
If you're doing some long form storytelling, or you're doing maybe a graphic novel that's a longer story, but it's still kind of a one shot deal, yeah, having a B plot is good for sure. But you don't also need like your C plot.
Yeah, you don't need to dense it up too much because again, the product itself is basically either it's a single character or a single team, and we're following them on this single adventure. Yeah, and you know it seems very much similar to what you do for a feature film, but usually with a feature film, it's like, okay, the single adventure that you can have, you could probably crank that out in maybe 60 minutes, but you need to hit a minimum 90-minute runtime. So that's where you have a B plot and a C plot. That's where you have like, hero Tom Cruise is fighting evil bad guy Glenn Powell, let's just say, to throw in a younger dude. And Glenn Powell kidnapped Tom Cruise's wife, who's actually considering divorce because Tom Cruise is never there. So Tom Cruise, in a diehard fashion, has to go after, save his wife, beat the bad guy, and maybe try and reconcile with his relationship to see if he can save his marriage. So there's 3 plots right there that will eke out a 90-minute movie. But in a comic book, you don't even need to do that. Sometimes you just have to be like, bad guy kidnapped dude's wife to hold him hostage and make him do something evil. Now he's got to find a way to circumvent the evil thing and go save his wife. And that's the story you need to tell. And that's it. And that's where you get your depth from. And that's all you got to do. You don't have to worry about the whole divorce subplot or things of that nature. It's not important because you don't need to eat up the time. The reader gets to make the pace of how the story flows based on how long they want to spend on each page.
And to answer this question, since we're talking about comics and stuff, how would you write a comic script? I started mine, it just doesn't look right. Now, are you writing it for an artist, or are you writing it for yourself? Because here's how I do it. Even if I wasn't writing it or going to draw it, I do an outline first, and I kind of see the story as a movie. Like, I got ideas for jokes, I have ideas for this, and I play it out beat for beat. Does it work? How I do it? And then I'll write out the outline, and then I'll kind of add spaces in between, and then I write in between what I like in the outline, and then I can go back and rework it. That's just how I do it, like that. And then when it comes to the actual comic book part, I'll write P1, or I'll write like this. Let's say we're doing page 17, and I would just write 17, P1 for panel 1, and then I just like write a basic, like, okay, for Stealing Solo 2, it's like guys driving van while Mark Hamill tells them a story of how Disney ruined his life. That's as detailed as the outline. Yeah, that literally is the book.
But, I already want this book now. When's the Kickstarter going up?
In a few weeks. I'm more than 50% done with it. But
yes,
that flashback took me a minute to work on. But yeah, it's got Bob Iger and every parody person in there too. They're all referenced. I think everyone's gonna like this one. But what I'll get at, Sly, is like, I will write a very basic direction of what is in that page, and then I will go like P1 for panel 1, and I'll just put MH for Mark Hamill, : and then I'll write his line of dialogue, and then I just do it that way. But then again, I'm the whole thing, so it's like, if I just write MH blah blah blah, I can send it to a letterer to be like, MH is this guy, and then it all comes together. But you want to make sure that you have clarity for your artist, but don't be pretentious. You got to treat your artist like, if you're not the artist yourself, treat it as like, he is your buddy and your lifeline to getting this out there. Now, you want a good, talented, respectable person who's going to show up on time, do the work, all that stuff. But you don't want to micromanage somebody that has experience. Like, if you're hiring somebody that's like, I don't know, has worked at Marvel and DC, you just want to give them like everything they need, but not too much. Because then like, I get it. Everybody that writes,
give them a little bit of artistic license to play around with. Give them some wiggle room. Let them play. Sometimes they'll do something. Yeah, sometimes they'll do something that looks cooler on the page than you had written in the script. And you're like, so that's why, you have, and it's a different approach with everybody, full script. You have full script, but you have full script also with like, okay, so I wrote it in such a way because this is how it works out in my brain. But if you see it cooler in a different way, have at it. And then you have people that are, you got Marvel method and things like that. But if you have an experienced artist and a super talented artist, give them artistic license, because that allows them to play around and have fun with what they do best. And that means they're going to enjoy the project more rather than you micromanaging them. And that means they're going to give it their best effort. You're going to get the best out of them, right?
Yeah, because they're exercising their creativity. But at the same time, it also allows you to basically make sure that if they do something that's completely off the rails, you can be like, this wasn't really what I'm going for, but I like it. Like, for instance, I was editing a comic last year where the script said this character gets shot in the chest. And the panel has the guy get shot in the chest, except he's leaning forward as if he's leaning into the shot, which doesn't really make much sense with momentum and how bullets work. And I checked with the writers, like, do you want him leading into the shot, or do you want him hitting the chest where he's either upright or prone or being thrown back because of the force, because it's a high caliber round? And he was like, yeah, he probably needs to lean back. So we went to the artist, says, hey, this guy's getting shot in the chest. Why is he leaning forward? He's like, oh, he meant chest? Oh, I thought he meant stomach. But the bullet still looked like it went into the chest. And it was a beautiful, composition. But he said, like, yeah, no, he's got to be falling backwards. Can't be falling into the thing. And so the guy actually came up with this really cool dynamic pose for the guy that was getting shot that was way better than him leaning forward, and he's leaning backward, and it's really dramatic. And it also opened up the chest so that he could actually show the gore of how the bullet is ripping through the guy's body. So, you have that type of note where both interpretations were him experimenting, but the one that kind of fit more to what was the intention opened up to have more creative license than what the artist initially thought. And you have to have the balls essentially to be able to say, hey, to your artist, you maybe didn't quite hit it on this one here, so let's make it work out well, and then give them that same creative license, because with that,
that's where it becomes a collaboration.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, hey, you did this thing way better than I had seen in my head when I wrote it in the script, right? But this thing over here doesn't quite land the way in which it would tell the story in the way that I'm trying to tell it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a bit of give and take. It's a bit of a back and forth. And when you have that genuine collaboration, it's actually a beautiful thing.
But that's usually type of stuff that happens between a first-time writer and artist. But eventually you create a relationship, you create a shorthand, and then all of a sudden you have to say, I want this character to do this thing where he's falling, and the guy's like, I know exactly what you mean, and boom, he nails it every time. That takes practice, but it also takes a level of commitment too. So, for instance, you guys at the Ripperverse, you've got Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, basically are partners in crime right here. And the reason they're able to work so efficiently is probably because they've developed the shorthand real quick, where Chuck is like, I just need to type out a couple of things. Joe's going to get it. And I don't have to worry about standing over his shoulder when he turns in a page with you guys and Eric and them checking it out and be like, yeah, that's not right.
Chuck makes almost, ladies and gentlemen who are fans of the Ripperverse, if any of y'all are in the chat, this is a rare moment of Andy Andrew divulging anything on the back end when it comes to Ripperverse content. Chuck makes almost zero commentary on Joe's pages. Chuck is a very, he calls it, what does he say? For those of you who don't follow him on YouTube, go follow and subscribe to Chuck Dixon. It's late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning, he drops what he calls Ask Chuck Dixon, and he talks about his process and things like that. But he calls it invisible handwriting in comic books, where he's very hands-off. He writes the script, and he trusts the talented artist to do what they're supposed to do, because the art is first and foremost what the audience is going to look at. It's why they go to see it. You pick up a book that has really great art, you're going to gravitate towards it. You pick up a book that has some big writer's name on it, but the art looks like complete crap, probably going to be less inclined to pick it up. And so Chuck...
You're going to adapt it into a movie.
Yeah. Chuck just he turns in his script, which is always fantastic. It's always very well buttoned up and paced. And that gets sent to Joe, and Joe just does his thing. Because, just to your point, script, the two of them, built that shorthand very quickly. So from Alpha Core 1, which was their first project together, to then Horseman, Welcome to Forest Park, then Salem, What Kills Must Die, and then Horseman #1 and further. Like, it's just like, here's the script. I know Joe knows what I'm thinking in my head. Chuck is also a guy who he writes towards his artist strength. So he knows that Chuck likes a lot of Chuck knows that Joe likes a lot of big set pieces. He likes a lot of spreads. He likes to be able to exercise all the intricate details that he can do on the page. And so he lets him do it. He'll put more than your average comic book number of 1 and 2 page spreads in his books, because he knows that Joe's going to have fun with it, and he's going to put on something there that people are going to want as a wallpaper. You know?
Cool.
I like that stuff. I guess in the 90s turned me off to like the 1 word 2 page spread. And so I've studied like a lot of the foreign artists or like sequential specific art, but I do love how like in Western comic books you get those, like Jim Lee and Justice League #1 has that cool spread of the destroyed city, and Batman's like from behind, and they're all doing shit. Like, that stuff's awesome. That's where the medium, because you can place characters in ways that you can't really in like film. Like, that's why, folks, you look at a lot of these, like X-Men tried to do it when it first came out. They would do 1-to-1 adaptations of covers and do them like as like promotional images. I'm not saying they were the posters, but like there's a picture of Wolverine doing that famous, come and get it pose with his claws up. In the comic it looks so cool, but in real life it's just some dude going like this and it's not as neat. Or like there's one of like Wolverine running forward and it's it's a great picture, but like the artwork is so much more dynamic because it's not real and you embellish and you can do these things.
Yeah.
And that's stuff I love with comics. I don't Sly, don't go overboard with the descriptions. That's the like somebody in the chat was like, that's why I don't read a lot of books. I love James Bond books, but goddamn, does Ian Fleming overdo it? The books are like this fat. They're really thin books. You can read them in an afternoon.
Yeah.
But man, he describes some of the dumbest crap. It's like James Bond was eating scrambled eggs. He decided he liked sour cream on his eggs. It reminded him of a time he was in Madripoor. You're like, what is this? Yeah, it's awesome. It's still James Bond, but you're like, really? Like, there's a book, Goldfinger, where he like drives. I think he's driving to. Was the Channel around back when Goldfinger was published? I swear to God, he's driving to France, and he just like has a long thought about how he wants to get married someday, and it's all about romance. And that stuff is just overly descriptive. And then you don't want to go the opposite route where it's so sparse, where you're like, 1 word and you're just reading blank pages. Like, find the happy medium, but ultimately ask yourself this question: does it make sense / does it work? Because like, I'll come up with stuff and I'll be like, all right, does this make sense? I'll ask like 10 people in my circle, and then I'll ask if certain things work. And you just got to get that, extra set of eyes on it. Don't take advice from people that you don't feel are qualified enough to do what you're doing. But also, too, everybody has watched a movie or a TV show, and so they're going to have to follow a narrative structure. Don't treat your audience like they're dumb, but treat your audience like they're new to stuff in a way where there's like, oh, this is my first time reading one of these books. They're following it and they like it. You don't want to confuse people, because when you confuse people, you make them angry, and then they don't want to support it. That's why certain speeches are written for a 5th grade reading level, or certain movies are written for whatever. Like the newspaper is written like that because it appeals to everybody. So just keep that in mind, and like, don't do what you want to do ultimately, but like, you don't need to be Alan Moore. You don't need to be pretentious. You don't need to be like a 1980s British writer. You're not trying to be Neil Gaiman. Like,
don't be Neil Gaiman.
I don't even like any of these guys. Like, I'm meat and potatoes old school comic guys. Like, if you read my books, you're like, oh, Jeff clearly likes old Marvel books. He draws them like that. Yeah, because they're fun.
I don't like Neil Gaiman's work. Like, his stuff isn't my jam. But I have taken his masterclass on comic book script writing, and I do appreciate his commentary on that. It's just like, okay, so I can separate the two things and be like, I actually can take away a lot from what you said here, but in terms of the actual stories that you told, I'm not interested.
Well, yeah, his taste is very specific, and I mean, there's a lot of very sad, depressed people that like his stuff. There's a lot of really happy-go-lucky people that really like his stuff, but when it comes to comics, it's like you be as detailed as necessary for whatever you need to show in that panel. Like if you're doing something of a mystery and you want to have clues around, you have to tell your artist what those clues are, because it's not,
otherwise those are going to get complete. Your artist isn't a mind reader, right?
Exactly, he's not a mind reader. And on top of that too, you're trying to give hints to your audience to be more engaged. That's why if you're writing a mystery and there are clues in a panel, you want them to be there so that when they finish the story, they can go back and be like, oh, I did see that thing in that panel. Oh, that's so cool. There's that attention to detail. But the principal rule is keep it simple, stupid. Simple plot, complex characters. And because you're in a visual dependent medium of comic books, you want to make sure that what those characters are saying is as short and pertinent to the story as possible. That is why comic book dialogue is, for lack of a better term, utterly ridiculous, but it works for the medium. And that is why sometimes when you see, oh gosh, what was that? Madam Web had actual comic book dialogue in it. Like overly dramatic, short dialogue that just makes you cringe when you hear it out loud. But if you read it on a comic book page, you're like, no, that works because that tells me exactly what the heck's going on in relation to the panel or the set of panels on that page. So yes, I'm not going to be cringed by it. However, the inverse is also true. When you have a monologue about promoting whatever type of ideology, doesn't work on comic books, but sometimes it can be a passionate speech that's elevated by the performance of the actor on screen that makes you not cringe, or maybe not cringe as much by comparativeness. So you got to understand the balance between that medium.
I feel like we should take this episode, edit it down to a masterclass, and sell it for $3.99 to download. Does that sound fair?
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Split that $3.99 three ways.
Yeah. Fine. We'll just make it an even $3.
Yeah, there you go.
$3.99, so $1 to host it, because they're going to charge us for that, and then the $3 net goes.
There we go. I'm down with that.
Smart.
I mean, hell, if everybody here
understands how it works.
if everybody here bought it, we could have a nice little chunk of change this evening.
Yeah, we go out for a nice Brazilian steak or something together. I don't know.
Ooh. Hell, if we sell enough of these, we'll get a nice Brazilian. But that's a topic for another time. Those ladies aren't cheap.
Better.
It's cheaper for me to fly to the United States than it is for me to fly from like Toronto to Montreal.
Well, come on down.
That's crazy.
I just got done hosting people. Stay here.
It's like $600 for a 90-minute flight, and I'm like, son of a. It's like I got to LA last year for like $320.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, folks, I'm glad that you guys, I'm watching the numbers stick around and keep rising. If you guys like this creative stuff, we're always happy to help. I don't look at people as competition. Like, the Rippaverse comics aren't a competition for my books. We're all comic creators. When the medium is strong, everybody's reading books. So I wish everybody the best of luck. And I'm also not above, like, teaching people how to do it. Because, like, I know a lot of people that are, like, almost good enough to draw their own comic book, but don't. And I'm not just talking about some people. I'm talking about a couple people in my life. And I'm like, it's nothing to do with the art. It's just creating something. It's so satisfying that everybody should do it. And if it feels like a huge task, do it one step at a time. Before you know it, you'll be knocking out pages left and right, and you'll be having dreams about your cover layouts, and you'll be looking at shit and going, oh, that like, yeah, that's me. I'll be sitting like somewhere, like I'm at Costco shopping. And I'm like,
Jeff is just talking about himself right now.
Well, no,
he dreams about his cover layouts. He's like, this is what Bride of Fisher is gonna look like.
It's funny. Frankenfisher has a cover idea. This new one doesn't. The one I'm currently on, I'm like, what the fuck is the cover? Normally the covers come first. It's like Wokebusters. I had all those cover ideas done, and now I'm just like, the book's more than halfway done, and now I'm like, what's the cover gonna be? Shit, that's the theme of my campaign. I'll figure it out.
Well,
that's the seller right there.
You parody one of the most famous shots from Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh.
I'm not going to show you which one because there's like 3 or 4 different ones, but
script, when I was doing the roughs for the book, which I keep in this nice big gray notebook, or sketchbook, I literally pulled out I bought a copy of Frankenstein to research it because, the exhuming of Carrie Fisher. I was like, how do I do this cinematically? So I watched Frankenstein and I took notes of like how the stuff is laid out, and I was like, all right, they have this many shots. Like I got it down. Like I was looking at it. I'm like, okay. Now the only question I have left is, do I do it in black and white or sepia to like show, old movie look? Do we do film grain? Do we do all those extra things?
Did you get some of the photos of, because Carrie Fisher is buried with her mother in an above ground cemetery? Did you get those photos for reference?
No, I used artistic license because I want to use Frankenfisher and Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can't spoil it for you because there's a plot point that happens when they're taking her body, and it's not funny and it doesn't work if they just like go into a mausoleum and go, all right, she's in here, crack it, and then they pull her out.
Well, no, the thing is that it's her and Debbie Reynolds, but the thing is, what if they accidentally grab the mother first and then they got to put her back?
Oh gosh. Oh no.
Now I want to go like, can I rewrite this? They take the wrong body home.
It's like, we're not making Singing in the
no.
Rain remake here, buddy. We're trying to fix her.
Spoilers.
Mark Hamill's like, take her back.
You idiots! That's Debbie Reynolds. It's like you got their stunt doubles.
You captured her mother. No, the loon known as Mark Hamill actively is involved with exhuming the corpse. So he would.
Oh no.
It's all tasteful. Like Carrie Fisher would laugh her ass off.
Yeah,
I'm sure she would.
Twisted humor.
Clone Geek. I've thought about the Joker reference cover. I've thought about that before, but when I think of Joker covers, the number one I think of is the one where Joker's holding the playing card and Batman's like pinned up to the card. And I'm
the
like,
Neil Adams one. Yeah.
yeah. I used to want to get that poster. The funny thing is, I already know what the hardback edition of these books are going to be. They're going to be referenced like the Star Wars Laserdisc set. That is like my final version. Nice slip covers, black, foil embossed, Stealing Solo 2, Power of the Farce, and Frankenfisher, and it'll even have an outer box. I said that to somebody, they're like, what's that going to cost? I'm like, I don't give a shit, all right? When that trilogy's done, it's going to be years from now, but it's going to be something down the road where people are like, oh yeah, this is it. So you want they'll have different content, so make sure you get all the editions, because like George Lucas, unlike George Lucas, I'll always make the originals available, but I'm always throwing bonuses at you to make each release worthwhile. Like, look at the Phantom Menace edition. That book was thick as hell. But
yeah.
The original one, almost as thick. Let's check in with the audience. We have some more stuff to talk about. We're having fun tonight, folks. Hit that thumbs up button as my internet drops. Hopefully my audio's not too bad. Michael Body says, did you guys like Batman 22 and Penguin? Or Max's Penguin? The Batman 22, what's that?
Oh, that's the Matt Reeves Batman, which came out in 22.
Oh, 2022 is what he means. Okay.
Yeah.
It was
okay. It was the worst written Batman live action I've ever seen. I'd rather see Batman and Robin and enjoy it than the Batman.
It had a couple of moments, but beyond that, I hated how they wrote Bruce. I hated how they had Bruce treat Alfred, especially. That's when they really lost me. I hated that they said we're going to tell a Riddler villain story, but we're really just doing Dollar General Zaz. Like, just do Zaz. Oh, wait, Zaz isn't as marketable because he's not as well known amongst people who aren't comic book fans, so you're just going to call this person the Riddler and think you're going to make more money. And that's, well, what happened. It had some really poorly choreographed fight scenes where you couldn't really see anything. Not only was the choreography not good, but like it was just dark. You couldn't see anything. And I get it. Oh, he's the Dark Knight. He fights in the dark. Yeah, but for a movie, which is a visual storytelling medium, you want your audience to be able to see what the heck is going on.
Yeah, and then on top of that, too many writers take the whole Dark Knight premise literally, like he's got to wear armor. No, he's a knight in the sense that he is noble and he's good and he's aspirational and he's dedicated and he doesn't compromise when justice is involved. And he's so good at what he does, he doesn't need to wear armor, which makes him even more scary. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if you have a criminal that's shooting at Batman and he's moving himself such a way that it's hard to get hit, because again, even the best marksmen only have a 20% accuracy on a moving target. And Batman, and then the guy comes up and he's out of ammo and he's emptied his magazine and he's now forced to fight fist to fist with Batman. He's like, wait a minute, are you wearing spandex? And then Batman just clocks me. He's like, no, I move easy in that. It's just like, That's just it. That's what makes it crazy and intimidating and frightening, is that he's not wearing, super sophisticated body armor. He's wearing a utility belt that has super sophisticated gadgets that help him out, because that's where it's mostly important. The suit itself is all theatrics and imagery and intimidation and distraction, and also movement. Again, a bulky suit like what he has in the Batman, like his first introduction is he's just walking out of the darkness sounding like a Terminator robot, just thumping his way in. It's like,
I'll get drive-through.
That would be better for Judge Dredd, wouldn't be good for Batman. And then on top of that, Batman wasting a ton of energy just beating up one guy. Like, no, Batman knows he's always going to be in an outnumbered fight. He's going for every single pressure point or quick tactic, dirty fighting move to take out his opponent as quickly as possible, so he's not wasting energy and he's not going to be exhausted fighting the sixth guy, in that group or what have you.
You mean he's not going to have an adrenaline shot ready for when he gets tired in the middle of a fight and just stabs himself in the leg?
Yeah,
that's the part,
because that's really how it works.
that's the part next to the Alfred yelling that just turns me off to that movie. But
yeah,
I'll sound like a hypocrite. I only got it because it was cheap on disc. Like, it was one of those like Amazon sales where if you buy multiple things, all the prices go down. And I'm like, I don't really want Chronicles of Narnia, so I guess I'll get Batman. It was one of those situations. But I did enjoy Penguin.
Penguin has a lot to enjoy. Its biggest flaw is that the universe literally bends over backwards to make Penguin win. Like, Sal Maroni has a heart attack while he's beating the crap out of the Penguin. Like, that's not the Penguin using his wits or guile to actually defeat his enemies. That's
he gets
a
lucky.
convoluted reason for that enemy to just fail, and make the hero of your story win. It's like that really takes the wind out of their sails. It also makes you realize, like, Penguin is not that intimidating of a villain here, because a lot of the people that work around him are stupid. Like, just really, really stupid.
I think I was enamored by how good the makeup work was.
Makeup work and his relationship with Victor. That was what sold it for me. Him and the kid.
Oh, yeah. But then the way it went down, I was like, Jesus, all right, I expected this, but, well, I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting offshoot for a superhero universe, and, like, if that would be the direction of Batman, I wouldn't be, like, making internet videos about it, but I also wouldn't be buying it on home media. I would just be like, all right, I saw it in theaters for the show, and that was it. Because I want somewhere out there is the perfect blend of Batman, where it's somewhat realistic, but it's also very fantastical. Like, we gotta get that blend this time with the James Gunn stuff, because it'll expand upon it where you can do it forever. This idea of everything needs to be a damn trilogy and then we just stop and reboot it. Guys, movies aren't new number ones. You can make movies in a franchise that just keep coming out. Like, James Bond had $1 billion hit in its, 23rd movie? Skyfall? Yeah, like, you can have hits come out in a long-running franchise. But this idea of, like, every couple years we got to take it back to formula, that shit gets tiresome, man. Like,
well, it's not even formula.
Formula.
It's a complete misunderstanding of verisimilitude, where it's manipulating the world of the fantastical to match into our world, and that's not what people are paying for when they go to the theaters. And I think James Gunn's probably going to get into the right headspace for the fantastical, because he's greenlit the Clayface film. And that's most likely going to have I'd be shocked if it doesn't, but it might actually be the debut of Batman in that DC universe. Because while you can get away with telling a Clayface story where, you don't need Batman there right away, it would be kind of a missed opportunity to actually have a villain-focused story where Batman is in the antagonistic role, because, truth be told, the way comic book structures are done, the way pulp novels are done, is that the bad guy is the protagonist trying to achieve something of evil for their own benefit, and then the good guy is the antagonist who's there just merely to stop them and keep things correct as they are in the status quo sort of things.
Well, we also have precedent as to why having a normally villain, a normal villain character, and having a film focused on them, but without the protagonist that is most associated with them having any presence in it, how that's worked out pretty poorly for other studios.
Especially, Sony, and then, of course, Joker.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of reason to have Batman, even if he's not a huge focus in the film, he needs to have some sort of a presence. Though at the same time, it does feel odd to market that. Like maybe that, I don't know, maybe that's a marketing strategy in and of itself. Like that gets butts in seats. Like, oh, the first appearance of Batman in Gunn's DCEU is going to be in this Clayface film. So go see the Clayface film. Because what other reason are people going to have to go see a Clayface film? I'm sorry, I'm not interested.
Well, I mean, before Clayface was announced, I was working with another writer, and we came up with a really compelling Clayface story, but it did feature Batman pretty prominently in it. But think of it this way. What if you used the Friday the 13th formula for your Batman films, where Batman is in the Jason Voorhees part, where he comes up just kind of out of the nowhere to thwart or intimidate your main characters, and they actually either they get captured and, you know, taken to the police, or they get away, and Batman is now just kind of following up through them, kind of like this unstoppable machine, crossing over a little bit into a horror genre with the way that he's able to appear out of nowhere, intimidate, threaten, and frighten, you know, these criminal elements that we're following. But we, as the audience, are actually hoping for those main characters to lose because we know what they're doing is wrong. Like that, we haven't really seen put in practice before. And I would say if James Gunn is going in that direction, that would be one heck of a good gimmick that would get people be interested in, because now you've got the horror audience that's like, yeah, I'm going to see a Jason Voorhees movie or Friday the 13th movie where I'm seeing a bunch of arrogant kids from a camp get their comeuppance. But now it's like, I'm going to go see the Clayface movie, or I'm going to go see the Joker movie, or the Riddler movie, but I know that Batman's going to win at the end. I just want to, you know, have that schadenfreude where I get to see this character try so hard to do something horrible and absolutely fail because Batman just comes out of nowhere and, you know, sets things right the way we want him to. And we're not entirely focused on Batman for that, because even with with the first Batman movie in '89, even with Batman Returns, especially with The Dark Knight, we had way more screen time of the villains than we ever do of Batman. And that's just kind of the nature. But we just put the Batman title forward, and we kind of coax the audience into thinking, yeah, this is a Batman movie.
Batman is the selling point.
Because, yeah, he is a selling point. He's the hero that is doing the policeman's work, essentially. But we always get more attention put on the villain because they're the ones that are actually trying to achieve something for their own personal gain. Where Batman, his goal of his own personal gain is really just making Gotham City a safe place for families and children to grow up in.
Gotta love that Batman. Just a noble guy.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. Batman should be a bright knight to the people, like children and citizens of Gotham, and the dark knight of terror to anyone that's a criminal.
I agree with that. I wouldn't be mad seeing Batman in a gray and blue suit on screen.
Yeah, that's not made of duct tape like in the Snyderverse.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. I liked Ben Affleck.
Me too.
Design. I liked that scene in the damn...
I think he was a good cast. Unfortunately, the script was ass.
Yeah.
And then there was The Flash, and that movie's unwatchable. It was a once, and I'll never do it again. Like, folks in the chat, tell me right now your one-off movie. A movie so bad that you'll never watch it again.
The Flash.
Cannibal
Holocaust is
Holocaust.
that for me.
I will never watch The Flash again. That movie
Cannibal
hurt
Holocaust
me.
you'll never watch again?
Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
is that the one where it's the Italian one where they thought the people actually died, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen that. I was mistaking it for Zombie Holocaust with
No,
John
Zombie
Saxon.
Holocaust is great. Go watch that.
Yeah, that movie's awesome.
Silly movie. But no, Cannibal Holocaust, that's a one and done. Like, I would say this, watch it mid-afternoon, empty stomach, and
Empty stomach so you don't throw up.
yes,
Yeah, it's
some of
gory
the
as
special
shit.
effects are really convincing.
Really?
Andrew, the actors in that movie, the director asked them to stay away during the promotion of shit. The director was arrested and sent to court on obscenity charges because they thought they killed the people.
That
And
was
then
an
they just
actual
started
snuff film. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just all start showing up to court, and they're like, oh, okay, well, it's just a movie. But yeah, like, the poster is this girl, like, sitting on a pike, going through her, like, out of her mouth, like, through her body.
Yeah.
It's nasty. But it...
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that's
also
a
do
movie.
harm. They actually do harm animals in this film, and as a result, a further detailed explanation of no animals were ever harmed in this film on a movie that had animal harm depicted would have to be put up to sort of, mitigate the reaction.
What did they do? I
They
want
killed
to
a
know what they
turtle.
did.
They killed a turtle. Yeah, they cut its shell off.
Yeah. Like in Friday the 13th, they actually killed that snake, but,
Nobody cares about snakes.
that's
But a
true. Everybody
turtle?
cares about turtles. I like turtles.
I like turtles
Yeah,
too.
I like turtles too. Cowabunga, mother effer. Like,
Cowabunga mother effer. Is that the next is that the last Ronin's trailer?
That would be funny.
Cowabunga, motherfucker.
But yeah, though, I mean, it's a movie that you should see once just for what it's doing, and also its groundbreaking level of special effects and horror. But never trust anyone that likes to watch it multiple times, thinking that it's like a great and entertaining. I mean, it is entertaining, but it's a great movie to be watching on a regular basis. That is a dangerous person.
that's somebody that you should probably have a wellness check put on.
Yeah, like
Or just not go over to their house.
Yeah, never.
That
Yeah,
too.
and or lock up all their knives and weapons.
Uh-huh.
But like a lot of the people have asked me about it, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to come watch it with me?" It's like, no, I've seen it already. You got to do that with your own posse.
Yeah, have fun. Nah, I'm not. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, read the wiki. That'll do it. That'll be enough.
I'm probably still good.
Jim Sterling in a Mankini, thank you very much for your super chat. He says, all this Jurassic World content, I just want an R-rated 8-part miniseries that more closely adapts the original book than the first movie.
The original book is a lot darker than the first movie, and John Hammond dies
Yeah,
in the book. So
he doesn't learn to like kids. That's right.
no. It is much different from that original Spielberg film, and I love that original film. I saw that on VHS with my dad, my grandfather, and my uncle when I was like 6. That was the first live action film I ever saw.
See, I saw it in theaters when I was 8, and what's funny is, my mom was in a psychology class at university, a very prestigious university, and her psychology teacher had seen Jurassic World and says, no child should ever see this movie. It's too traumatizing to them. My mom's like, no, my kid loved it. And all the
dinosaurs, man. Like,
and all the other parents that were in that class too, which were only a few because most of them were much younger, were all like, yeah, all our kids were like between 5 and 10, all loved it. Heck.
Yeah.
Like I know people who are younger than 5 that saw it in theaters when they were like toddlers, like 3, 4, 5 years old, and they loved it too. They weren't scared of the dinosaurs. They were like, that is so cool.
Yeah, I was a 6-year-old boy. It's dinosaurs. Of course I'm gonna love it.
Exactly.
I mean, I didn't see it until it was 20 years old on the big screen, but you know what? It was awesome.
Oh, I would love to see the original on the big screen.
That was the first time I ever saw it. It was in 2013.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, for the longest time, I'd always be like, haha, I've never seen Jurassic Park. And then it was never like, oh, I don't ever want to watch it. It's just, oh, I haven't seen this yet. And then when I watched E.T., I regretted it. I did not like E.T., and I still don't like E.T.
Man, I'm genuinely jealous.
Come on.
I would love to see Jurassic Park on the big screen.
I'm pretty sure they're going to re-release it again, so...
Yeah, they had the 30th anniversary in 23, didn't they?
Yeah.
Did they? Okay, so maybe in a couple of years they'll do a 35th anniversary and put it in...
They're going to wait till 60 years to go back in theaters just to spite you, man.
Gosh.
It's like, there's that one kid who
that?
loves our films that's never seen it in theaters. We're going to hold
I would
off.
actually be in my 60s at that point. What the hell, Jeff?
And you're still gonna love it. You're gonna act. I know you. You're gonna be 60. You're gonna have your family. You're gonna have your popcorn, and you're gonna sneak in you'll have wine at this movie theater because it's a classy event for Jurassic Park.
Correct.
You're just gonna sit back and you're gonna enjoy, and you're gonna be like, "Yep, greatest night of my movie-going life." And your family's gonna love it, and you're all gonna smile and get In-N-Out Burger on the way home because they have good burgers.
You probably just predicted the future.
Oh, I didn't tell you. I'm from the future.
Oh.
Do you want to know some future Star Wars content?
All right, Mike Zero.
Somebody made that comment the other day, and I was like, I forgot Mike Zero was even a person.
Is he?
I thought he was a life model decoy.
Arguably.
Personally.
It's debatable.
I don't want to start any beefs with YouTubers. If I did, I would have to pick like a really cool one to get into a beef with. Like,
All right.
I'm trying to think, who do I want to beef? Like, if I could feud with like the angry video game nerd, I feel like I can hang with that dude talking trash to each other. But I really like his videos, so I don't have anything mean to say. It's like, hey man, I'm glad you still use your old theme song. That's all I say.
It sounds like ska music.
Yeah, it's gonna take you back to the past. But like, that's the epitome of like internet dude making it long term, because he's been doing the nerd for 20 years, and I've been watching it for 20 years.
Yeah, I think he has a kid that's a teenager now, like going to college soon.
Yeah. Hey, Cinemassacre has paid for that kid's future, and good for the nerd. I remember when all the people up in Hollywood got offended. Oh, he's not going to go watch Ghostbusters. So the New York Times wrote an article about him. I was like, that's a little much there, New York Times. But
helped his
everybody wants to make offended for somebody on someone else's behalf that has no connection to them whatsoever.
I wish more people would write articles like that so we could make fun of it.
We'd have to dial the clock back to like 2019.
I know, the golden
the
age.
trades are struggling these days. There's some new instructions on the scuttlebutt about how to identify a journalist trying to goad you into saying something that they can get clicks for, that and also can be remonetized across social media and YouTube, that end up hurting the actor's career.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen no shortage of instances where that's happened, and honestly, it's best to just ignore those people. And I'd be curious to know the foot traffic, or click traffic rather, I guess, that a lot of those publications online get these days. It's probably dropped dramatically. A lot of people probably don't pay attention to them anymore. I could be entirely wrong, but I know for myself, like if I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed and I see a stupid freaking headline, I'm like, that looks stupid. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Like, I don't even care. Like, even if it's the most absurd article title possible, like so and so said whatever, like no matter what side of the aisle it is, like I really can't be bothered. I've got other things to do. I could go walk my hamster that died when I was 12.
Well, the Hollywood trades, those papers, they have a minimum of 25 million clicks through circulation and people, because mostly everybody that lives out in California is reading them daily, multiple times.
Really?
So yeah, it is. And then, you know, a little bit of a good 50% of that is probably reading Washington Post, New York Times, and some of the general, you know, traditional publications. And then that's just for the entertainment side of things. Then you have the rest of the country, and I would say at minimum 30% are reading those traditional newspapers, and that's what, like, 70 million additional people. I mean, it's sustainable. It's just not the numbers it used to be, because, again, the market share, when you actually were interested in either op-eds or proper reporting, was closer to 80%. And that just kind of cratered once we got the 24-hour news networks in the 80s, and then social media, where people are able to kind of videotape on their phones things that were happening as they were, and counteracting a narrative that just didn't hold up to scrutiny.
How much do you think is self-inflicted? Like, do you think there's a decent amount of people, at least maybe 10% we'll say, that have been turned off by that 2016 through 2019 type of conversation, like the Ghostbusters shit, or the everyone's a bigot or a racist? Do you think those type of people have turned off a significant chunk of readers, and they just won't ever come back to traditional stuff like that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if they spot the types of headlines that are going to promote something that clearly is opinionated news as opposed to an actual, piece on a person or a subject matter, they're just going to blow right by it and then look for another article that doesn't follow into that footstep. Yeah, because what I messaged you the other day is that you're worried that even with the trades and even in YouTube commentary, that they're all going to become I think I'm worried that they're all going to become J. Jonah Jameson, and every single subject is just going to be their take on Spider-Man. Whether they're doing something evil or not, they're always going to couch it as they're a menace, they're ruining something, what have you, and they're going to do it based on, conjecture with a couple of cherry picked moments from their past to try and reinforce that opinion. And I mean, that's kind of a really crazy thing to see, and that's one of the things that oddly enough George Orwell didn't predict, but Steve Ditko did.
He did, man. He did indeed. Steve Ditko is way more impactful to me than I'd like him to be, because I don't really like him as a person, but I'm like, shit, I have read too much of his work that I like finding myself inspired by it.
Well, the irony is that he was dejected by the world and put that into Spider-Man, but that take inspired people to try and change the world for the better. And he kind of gave up on it.
It's his whole, like, I respect people that stand by their views and points, but his like, I guess I don't like objectivism to a degree, and I'm just like, you've robbed the readers of history by just, I gotta, stick by this and that. Like, you should have told us the truth about stuff, man, before you passed away, but
yeah,
that's a topic for another time. We'll never get to know the truth behind shit.
It's the curse of professionalism, because professionalism usually should be honest about how you do the process and who does what. But when a reputation circumvents professionalism, you have to be professional to embolden the reputation. And that ends up coming at the expense of your own reputation in some cases. And it's not a cool position to be in, because you realize, this is the guy who's the face of this company, or he's the face of this thing. And he's not really the one that's putting in all the work that's making it good. But people are like Kevin Feige. People are acknowledging Kevin Feige for being like, the master maker of the MCU at its peak form. But anyone in Hollywood that actually works in the industry knows that a producer's job, aside from getting the movie made, is to take credit for all the success. Like, even though they didn't have anything to do with it. And I mean, even when I first got onto the scene here and people were talking about how great Kevin Feige was, I'm like, he's just a producer. He's not actually responsible for all the success here. In the level that you think. He was great for picking certain creative forces and whatnot, and maybe doing some guidance, but the execution all came independently from the people that, put in the effort. And then when some of those guys left or were squeezed out or priced themselves out through negotiations, and the bag was being put in Kevin Feige's hand, his arrogance as a producer, which all producers have, said that as long as his name's on it, they're going to be successful. It doesn't matter who he plucks out of obscurity or in the industry. So long as they're a body in place that can do the job, he's going to keep winning, because it's all his vision. He believed his own BS. And what do we have? We have what, 7 years, nearly 7 years of poor Marvel films?
Yep.
There you go.
It's like a distant memory. Like when I was looking at Ironheart, kept thinking to myself, is this really the same universe that had Iron Man in it? This just feels like generic Fox Entertainment. Like, if Ironheart wasn't a real superhero, if I didn't know that Ironheart was a real superhero, I'd watch this and be like, this is just like a ripoff of Iron Man in inner city Chicago. Whoop-de-doo. At least they didn't put it in Detroit or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch part 2. I'm going
You
to,
don't
so I
have
can make
to.
this video. I put it into 3 hours to watch part 1. I can't make a video on it and go, well, I half-assed it and quit midway through. Like, no.
I don't know. I think there's some people that do that on the internet, don't they?
People might forgive you to a degree. They people for not even being that honest. So,
I will ham shit up and bullshit, but I'm always giving my honest opinions on stuff. This show is everything you think it is, and it's slightly not. I don't know how to describe it. It's worse than other things, but it's better than like Secret Invasion.
Oh yeah, Secret Invasion is bottom of the barrel. I'd watch Echo for the first time if I was told I have to watch Secret Invasion again.
Wow.
Yeah, Secret Invasion I can never sit through again. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny I can never sit through again. Anything from 2023 was kind of a hard sell to me. There was just a lot of bad entertainment that year.
Wasn't Ahsoka also in that year?
Yeah. No, Ahsoka was the year before. Yeah, it was the year before last. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, 2023 was just not good overall. That was rough, man.
Well, but the Acolyte was great for us in growth.
Oh yeah.
Well, 2023 was kind of like the emptying of inventory of all the bad stuff, bad ideas that were kind of at its peak in 2019. Because again, when you're doing a show or a film, it usually takes anywhere between 2 and 3 years to get it out to release. And so you're looking at a perspective that's a few years in the past. And rarely do you hit a movie that hits theaters that is actually so in tune, so on the pulse of society, that its perfect timing causes it to be a massive cult hit or just a hit in general. And that's always a happy accident, because no one's ever been able to 100% predict the future every single time. You just see a pattern. You're like, I'm going to have some experimenting with that pattern to its end goal. And if it resonates with people, we get it produced and it comes out. Maybe it'll line up. Maybe it won't. Here's a great example that one that didn't line up but ended up becoming huge afterwards. The television show Arrested Development. It was 5-6 years ahead of its time. And when people caught up to it afterwards, they're like, why was this show canceled? Because it was hitting on a subject matter of fraud and bad families that people just weren't ready to see made fun of yet. And then it hit and it was good. And then when they tried to bring it back to kind of round out the series, it was too late, because society and culture had already moved past that point. They wanted something different. And yeah, that's what we got.
I was just reading the people in the chat are suggested we have Max Landis on the stream. Folks, would you guys watch that? I'd ask him questions. Script, you've probably interacted with him, haven't you?
I've left a few of his parties because they're creepy and stupid.
Like,
how do you really feel?
I just want to know, like, okay, stupid could be funny. Like I've been to places where I'm like, this is so bad, and it makes me laugh because it's stupid. But like, was it so dumb that it wasn't even funny? It was just boring.
It was stupid in the sense that the parties are where I think ground zero for woke started to germinate.
So what you're telling me is I need to get in with him, become friends with him, get invited to a party, and take a copy of Wokebusters for everybody, right?
Oh yeah, they would hate it.
I'd be like, really? You don't want to hear a minority's point of view on this stupid world you people built? And they would just be like, because I get so many people that look at the title and they go like, oh, they're just hating on the women Ghostbusters. Nope.
Yeah. So I mean, like, because the thing is, when I first crossed paths with him, it was just after Chronicle came out, and that movie got made primarily because his name was attached to it, because it was a solid script, and Josh Trank and them kind of worked together, but they were able to get financing for it a lot easier than a lot of other people in his stage as a career, because he had written like 90 screenplays by that point, and they were all really bad. But he wrote so much, and he always has an interesting imagination. But he was also the type of guy who was always talking about, like, he's a feminist, and he's pro women and all this stuff, and then you see him interact with women, and he's just creeping all over them, and like he's creeping all over them like a 45-year-old guy who goes to the club to pick up 20-year-olds. He was eccentric. And then he would throw his parties, and they were all networking parties, because people wanted to meet Max because his dad was this huge player in the Hollywood. But even then, he made fun of his dad, because he's like, my dad doesn't even direct anymore. He like walks the dog on a daily basis. That's what he does.
That's the life.
But
man.
The thing is, yeah, he pushed a lot of stuff, a lot of demoralizing, a lot of deconstruction stories. Yeah, he was very much like, if you pitched him a story about like a minority thing, he would be like, oh, I know who you need to talk to get that thing made, type of stuff. If you tried to talk to him about a story about like an aspirational hero or role model, he'd be like, yeah, but there's so many of those in the past. They're not really cool for today. People want edge. And it's like, well, yeah, I know people want edge, but the thing is, you want to fill a market gap. If there's a gap for something that isn't being made, you kind of want to fill that gap so that you hit the audience that's interested in that type of thing. Taylor Sheridan did that by bringing back a modern day Western, or it's actually by bringing into a soap opera and putting a veneer of a modern day Western on top of it. People really like that. They're like, oh, this is a masculine type of show. And it's like, well, if you see a little bit below the surface, you realize this is a soap opera where the oldest daughter of the family is actually like the girl boss who can get everything done by words. And she says a word, she says a threat, and people are like, oh, I better not do anything because she'll do it. It's like, No, push the envelope. See if she can pull it off. Because right now it's all talk. It's never execution. But yeah, he's I think he was an okay writer. He knows how to do a certain type of characters. When he got Dirk Gently, I was really surprised. And then when he did Dirk Gently, the way he did it, I was not surprised because he completely kind of like threw out everything that Douglas Adams was doing with the character to do his own little weird thing. And he hasn't really been around since. I think does he still use his YouTube channel? I think he tried doing that originally. But no, he was crazy stuff. He was. I remember when he dyed his hair rainbow color when he got Dirk Gently. He's like, I'm doing that because I lost a bet, and then 2, he wanted to promote all these LGBTQIA stuff things among his friends because a lot of them were that. But yeah, when you go to his parties, it was him just basically trying to scope out girls and use his name to get them there, and then everybody else was like, if he didn't like you, you would be blacklisted within that age group or that tier level. And if he did like you, he'd try to be your best friend. And I just tried to stay out of that orbit all the time. Because, I didn't want his stink on me, so to speak.
I mean, I would like to be friends with his dad and hear about the Kentucky Fried Movie and,
and
trading
what's the other one? The Earth Girls from Mars. He did the follow-up. No, was it him? Yeah, he did the follow-up to that. An unofficial sequel with another studio to Kentucky Fried Movie.
Oh, okay.
As Mark McClure in it.
He's also in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
He's Dave.
There's Dave and Jimmy Olsen and Superman.
He's got a good scream, like when he's dying, about to die at the Hoover Dam. I'm like, oh shit, he actually thinks he seems to be in danger. That's a convincing performance. So
no, he was pretty good. John Landis got lucky with with American Werewolf in London, and there is a YouTube video you can find with John Landis, John Carpenter, and another horror director. His name's escaped me right now. And they're being interviewed. It's a very late 70s style show. It's like they're on a dais with a black background, and they're all in like these really like tacky armchairs that are on a swivel. So they're not like four legs. And the other 2 directors are subtly making fun of John Landis throughout that entire interview about horror, about art, about storytelling. And there's also an interview with Ivan Reitman. And it was held by Kevin Pollak. It was done years ago. It's like a 2-3 hour interview. And you find out that, John Landis, he kind of took a lot of credit as a director for things that he didn't actually do. Like a lot of National Lampoon's
Animal House
was
that was
mostly
Doug Kinney.
Yeah, it was mostly like Ivan Reitman and everybody else on the production making that movie work, and John Landis was just kind of showing up, trying to have some fun, and then would dick off for a little bit. And then on the Blues Brothers, it was mostly Dan Aykroyd kind of leading that production to make it work. So there's a lot of various stories here where you realize like John Landis just kind of, took credit for other people's stuff, and then would. He'd pay some of that forward to his friends and other people that helped him on other projects, but mostly he was just like, he hasn't really done anything. I think the last thing he did was like The Stupids with Tom Arnold. And that was something where by that point, a lot of the people that helped him with his career weren't working with him again because they were already working on their own stuff that was more important. And then you got to see John Landis in his pure form as a filmmaker. And he hasn't really done much since then.
No, I thought he stopped making movies in like 1990. I was like, what had John Landis done after Coming to America? And then I remember Beverly Hills Cop 4 is the answer.
Coming to America is a fun film.
Oh, 3, yeah, sorry.
That's a great
4
movie.
was better than 3.
Yes, it was. I was just thinking about that today.
You can skip 3 altogether, and 4 makes complete sense.
Yep. You could watch 1 to 4. You could just watch 1 and 4 if you wanted to, but I like 2, so
I like 2 as well.
Yeah, I never say skip Beverly Hills Cop 2. It's a really good sequel. It's just a solid, fun movie, and it's
Well, it also
nonstop
gives us
laughter.
more Rosewood, which then pays off with 4.
Yeah. I like the reason number 2 is my favorite for a small window of time is you don't have to watch Axel, Billy, and Taggart become friends. They're already friends. And it's so funny. Like those 3 guys had to have liked each other because they're definitely good at conveying it on screen.
Yeah.
R.I.P. John Aston. R.I.P. Or Ashton, excuse me. John Aston's still alive. He's like 99, I think.
Yeah, he's hanging in there.
Do you think Mel Brooks is going to make it to Spaceballs 2? I hope so.
Probably. He survived COVID, so you know.
He's actually immortal now, so we're going to have to sit through like Dracula Dead and Loving It 2.0 in about 10 years.
Yeah, with Liam Neeson replacing Leslie Nielsen. Because
I'm fine with that. After the Naked Gun trailer part 2, I was like, all right, I have just as much faith. Come on, Liam Neeson. I know you got the comedy chops to pull this shit off.
I hope it's good. I did see a couple of interviews with Zucker talking about how like there is a Naked Gun script out there, but it's not a cop story. And one of the things, and he tells some great advice about comedy, which is always try something new. Like even like he was very reluctant on doing the sequels to the Naked Gun, but he also knew that money would help him get to doing another comedy down the road. Problem is that nobody wanted the other comedies, so he had to do 2 more Naked Gun movies, and then eventually jump onto like the Scary Movie franchise for a moment. But yeah, it looks like he's gonna the original Naked Gun 4 script. He's got a new name for it, and it's because it has none of the original characters or original plot at all. It's a brand new take. He might get some financing for it. We might get a classic, Zucker comedy in the next 3-4 years.
I would watch it. Kind of
me
want
too. I like his style of comedy. It's very much his, and the other part too is it's also amazingly unexpected when you least expect it.
So it's like the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes, because no one ever expects the Spanish Inquisition.
God, I love Monty Python. So, we have talked about Jurassic World, Rebirth. We have talked about the film franchises we want to go away. And we've talked about a million other things. Folks in the chat, if there's any other topics, send them our way before we put this baby to bed. We've had consistently more people watch each and every week, so that's exciting. We are hitting that goal by the end of the year, folks. All right? I want to make that shit happen. I want the gold play button in the next couple of years. So, fuck it. We're going to push it to the limit. Tomorrow, we'll have a video about, well, I know what it's about, but I want to surprise you guys. But I'll just tell you tomorrow when it comes out. But there's also some new Patreon content, like I told you guys. Join now. Our friend Paul Otis just joined. But you're going to be getting in the next couple days the Goonies documentary. Sorry, I had people in from out of town, so I couldn't edit it. We're going to have the discussion about the new Running Man trailer. And we also have a video on the Project Hail Mary, the new Ryan Gosling movie, which is a sci-fi book from, the guy that wrote The Martian.
Yeah, I keep mixing him up with Alex Garland, but it's not Alex Garland.
I almost called him Neil Peart, but that was the drummer from Rush. So happy Canada Day.
Well, I mean, yeah, Neil
There
Peart,
you go. Congratulations.
but his name's Andy Weir, not to be confused with another Andy Weir. But no, yeah, Andy Weir wrote it. I read the book a while ago. I absolutely love the book. It's sweet, endearing, and funny. And the trailer seems to capture that. And I really hope that movie hits hard. And it's like this generation's Jurassic Park or I would say E.T., but you despised E.T. at that time. But that was
the only reason I despised E.T. is because everything that E.T. has was done better by the Goonies, because the shit that's in E.T. like makes me laugh. It's so saccharine, I want to choke. They're like, "Goodbye, E.T." and they're like, you know, there are other things that you can do to like tell people you're into a movie, like, may the force be with you. You're gonna need a bigger boat, all this shit. But like, just pointing your finger out at somebody and going, "Elliot," I'm like, that's just weird. Like, don't touch me. Like, I don't find anything about E.T. endearing. It looks like a turd. Like, honestly, E.T. looks like a pile of shit.
It's
well, it is clay and chicken wire. Yeah, so
it's not a great creature design to me. And maybe we're the ones in the wrong. And
Well, it's a story about coping with the parents being divorced. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
I have the original script, which isn't too different from it. But one of the things I really liked about it is the fact that when Elliot's talking about what he's heard his dad is doing with his new girlfriend, and the mother is like, he never would want to go to a place like that when I suggested it. It's there you have that little, like, the effort was done on the mom, but the dad said no, and now you're wondering, is it resentment, or is it just the fact that which party was the one resentful? Was it the dad or was it the mom at that point? Because the dad's doing something that the mom wanted to do when they were together that he's doing with the new girlfriend. So that was always kind of an issue. And then there's another scene where the mother's asleep and the covers aren't on her, and ET kind of walks in there and then tucks her in and then walks out of the room, and the mom has no idea that ET's in the house yet. So she has no idea who did that, thinking maybe one of her kids or something. But no, it's this alien that actually like picks up her distress with being a single mom for the first time, and gets a little bit of care that she never got before. So, and those are things from the script that I thought, this is not bad.
If E.T. would have kept the scene with Harrison Ford, it would have been a good movie. I'm just joking. It's not a bad film. I can admit that I don't like it. It's got great music.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The effects look great. Like when they're doing the little bicycle things, like with the puppets. It looks cool. So
good Yoda joke in there. I mean,
yeah. And E.T. is in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, so...
That species is indeed there, yeah. So E.T. is an unofficial Star Wars film.
In I guess Earth is technically in the Star Wars universe then.
Yes, just not our galaxy.
Yeah. So, yeah, folks. Bet you didn't know. They probably did. But, oh yeah, Shrubbles Away. I like Poltergeist. That was a much better movie. And I do believe Spielberg directed it fully, even though Tobe Hooper gets the credit. Everybody that worked on that movie is like, yeah, Steven Spielberg did all of it. So I think it was a legal thing that he couldn't take credit for an extra movie or something along those lines.
He was signed with a different studio for that period. I think that's why.
Because wasn't he with Universal, and that's a Warner Brothers picture?
Yeah, no. Because he was with Fox, then Universal. Yeah, that was Warner Brothers picture. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Because Amblin was in partnership with Universal for ages.
I mean, that's what I think of. Just Steven Spielberg's Mr. Universal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Jaws, all that shit. But yeah, I fully acknowledge it's a me thing. But if I want to watch a kids movie from the '80s, I'm going Goonies, then Monster Squad. I'll watch The Gate before I watch E.T. What was that one from Tobe Hooper, Invaders from Mars? Yeah, E.T. was a one watch for me, folks. I'm sorry. I'll play the video game again before I'll watch the movie.
I've seen it once, and that was it. I'm good.
Oh, I've seen it a few times. I show it to my godkids. They love that movie. But yeah, it definitely hits kids a lot harder than it does most adults.
Yeah, I was 35 when I saw it.
Yeah.
I just, I sat there, I watched it, and that was it. So this has been Jeff's rant about E.T. It used to be, if you would have known me 10 years ago, I could have ranted about Steven Spielberg movies I hadn't seen or didn't really like. Now that I've watched a ton more and experienced a lot more, E.T. still not on that list. But yes, Matt. The score is amazing. Monster Squad is a great movie, Jason. Land Before Time is a movie I don't like. You know why? Because on the rare occasions that I had to go to a babysitter's house, they always put on the Land Before Time and then made you take a nap. I was above that. I wanted to go read or play a video game. But no. Had to take a nap and watch the Land Before Time. So,
well, that would put you to sleep, so I mean it kind of worked.
Yeah. Good old that's a Don Bluth picture, right?
Or yeah,
at least Don Bluth studio. That was his dude. They made so much money from that. Like, Land Before Time was big into the 90s. Like that was
there's like 11 sequels to them. Yeah.
So there you go, 11. I guess 6. I was way off.
No, there's a lot. Heck, they had Commissioner Gordon. Pat Hingle was a voice for one of the characters for a few of them, I think.
Oh, that Commissioner Gordon. I always think of him going to Batman, "Hey, go, go," and giving him the thumbs up as he flies off.
yeah, Batman Forever. That's that was not in the original script.
I would hope not. Batman gives a thumbs up to Commissioner Gordon.
No, a lot of the cringy stuff in Batman Forever is inserted by Akiva Goldsman, and he like the guy knew how to play the system because the original writers for that, they got their credit, but Akiva was the one that got, more prestige because he rewrote the script, which really just changed a few lines of dialogue and made Edward Nigma's the name of the Riddler as opposed to the original one, which was just a different name. And then they gave him Batman and Robin, and he wrote that all on his own.
And it shows.
And it shows. And what's sad is that it's still better than watching The Batman by Matt Reeves. And
it's worth watching, if nothing else, than for Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Not only that, like Uma Thurman puts on a great performance for a very eccentric eco-terrorist that
she does.
I never understood why Poison Ivy eats plants when she's so in love with plants. She should be very much eating meat.
Yeah.
Because the fertilizer and the dead bones feed the plants.
Strictly a carnivore.
Yes. Very much a lion diet type of thing. I'm actually kind of I'm not looking forward to if Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 gets made.
I don't think it's happening.
He turned in the script this week, which James Gunn will not be able to read until the 15th of the month because he's on the press tour with the cast going all over the world for Superman. And then if the script is not up to snuff, they'll get a couple of like a second step rewrite option. And if it doesn't make it there, I hope he kills it because.
Well, hasn't Gunn already turned down multiple scripts for the Batman sequel? If I'm remembering correctly?
They're still working on Batman Brave and the Bold. I can't remember who the writer is, but it's still there. But there is rumors that it probably has been killed because he just publicly said that he killed a project that was deep in development where the script wasn't ready yet, wasn't working. It's most likely going to be Batman. Booster Gold is still in early stages development. I don't know what's going on there, but because I have been visiting the research set, I have been kind of laying hints to some of the crew and some of the supporting cast that Alan Ritchson would be a great Booster Gold because he's big and he knows how to do that type of comedy quite well. I know Alan wants to do Batman, but I don't think he could. I don't think he's going to get it, so I'd push him for Booster Gold.
And Skeet, his sidekick.
Yeah, you get Billy West to do the voice because he's already done it before and he loves it.
Oh, come on, Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk's doing so many things over at DC Studios.
Oh, I didn't realize he was involved with the movies. I was like,
oh yeah, like he's number 4 robot. He's Dr. Phosphorus in Creature Commandos and will be Dr. Phosphorus in live action.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there's actually so it's really interesting. Aside from some of the most prominent characters out there, a lot of the supporting cast is going to be doing double duty with other roles. Probably in like digital replacements or with like heavy makeup. So I'm curious to see who's. I think Breckin Meyer, who plays the sports reporter Lombard. I think he's got another role in a future DC project coming up where he's not James Lombard. So we'll see. We'll see what that'll be like. And I also know Sean Gunn, James's brother, plays G.I. Robot and Maxwell Lord and Weasel, and I think he's going to have another character as well. The rumor is like a CG character or something like Weasel. So, yeah, he's getting a lot out of his cast.
Hey, I mean, if he likes the people he's working with, you keep him around. So,
yeah. Yeah, his wife is also plays one of the Superman robots too. I think she's uncredited.
You know what, though? That doesn't bother me. But Sherry Moon Zombie being in everything Rob Zombie directs does bother me, because that chick can't act. All right?
No, you can see a great example of that in The Munsters that Rob Zombie wrote and directed.
I saw a great example by not watching that movie. That thing looked horrible, dude. Like
It
a
was
TV
horrible.
show.
It was worse than the TV show. The TV show had better production.
Does it have a better production level than like the 1980s made-for-TV movie version of The Munsters? Because
No.
that's the low bar. Oh, shit. Okay, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
Like, it looks like it was shot on a camcorder. The frame rate is way too hyper realized. The lighting is bad. Camera angles are bad. Acting is horrible. Yeah.
Just reading the chat, folks, before we go. Guys, I think we have had a nice, fun 3-hour episode. Enrique, I'm sorry, but the brands aren't loading here on StreamYard. Not ScreenYard. So, first off, let me play you guys a couple of buttons as a backlog.
I don't have friends. I got family.
That was for you earlier, Script. This is just in general.
Shut up!
And this is because it's late.
So have you ever done DMT?
There we go. And I got to find us a good closer for tonight, folks, because we want to leave you wanting more. Now, folks, this is the most patriotic week of the year. It's the 4th of July on Friday, but WCBS will be here on Thursday night. We have an episode for you guys. We're going to keep it fun and like we always do. So send in your messages, do what you want to do, but we're not going to tell you what we're covering just yet. There are a lot of people watching. So, folks, if you're watching live right now, join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if I see these things keep going up, I'll give you another night of the week beyond bracket battle. But more is more in 2025, and folks, we'll be talking about all that wonderful new content coming your way. Patreon.com/worldclassbs is the place to be if you want bonus content. Hell, if 10 of you over on Patreon say, Jeff, we want a post-show sometimes, well, we'll figure out a way to do a WCBS post-show, pre-show, whatever the hell you want. And remember, folks, if you're a patron, you can come on the channel and hang out. Nobody ever claims that shit. No one ever says, hey, Jeff, I need to cash in my token for the month. No. People just are happy, and we appreciate you guys, but we want to do more because we want to hang out with you guys. So, you know what to do. You know where to find us here Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anything else you want to say before we go, guys, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Like I've said everything I need to say. Everybody,
All right.
Thank you so much for being here. You are an amazing audience, and we appreciate you.
We do, folks, and we'll appreciate you even more on Thursday. But until then, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.